Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on December the 12th, 2017. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, the best third wheel ever.
Didn't you use that one before?
Maybe, but it definitely applies tonight.
Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we will, of course, be discussing the games that we've been playing. We'll be talking about Valve removing some adult games from Steam, loot boxes, legislation, and business models. UK's MPs and campaigners called Detroit Become Human Repulsive. We'll have our weekly community corner with an email. And we have our weekly Discovery Queue is coming back this week.
Is weekly in sarcasm quotes at this point?
Yes.
Hasn't it been nearly a month or over a month since we've done Discovery Queue?
Yeah, I've said weekly Discovery Queue on everything and then cut it every week because we ran out of time. But we specifically said we were going to have it today, so we will have it. And also, timestamps will be in the show notes following the respective topics. Hello, Rage.
Hello.
Yeah, I think you're right about using third wheel before, but given like the last, 90 minutes of conversation that Katie and I have been having with you in here also, maybe 90 minutes is too much, but
now the question is,
it still counts.
Am I the third wheel or is Katie the third wheel in this case?
Yes. Or am I the third?
Well, you're a third of something.
Indeed I am. Yes, our life circumstances have brought us all closer together, as much closer to one big happy family than we were before. Hey, my family is a pretty good one to be in, mister. You just take it easy there. We can be a little eccentric. Both of us can, especially me, but Katie can be too. But we're very loving and kind people.
Hate me.
Oh. Hi, Rach. How are you?
All right.
Well, that's good.
Honestly, this is kind of the beginning of my day because I have a doctor's appointment again this week because I had to miss last week, so my sleep schedule's completely fucked.
I'm very sorry.
I need a doctor that's, open during the night, but usually that's on the seedier side of things, so I don't think it's covered by my insurance.
Yeah. I went to the doctor the other day, and even though they're covered by my insurance didn't pay anything because my insurance sucks dick. So, had to pay for that one out of pocket. But I got drugs, so that's nice.
Yeah, you got that going for you.
Yeah, my insurance paid for all of those. Well, almost all of those. I had to pay $9 for my drugs. But without my insurance, my drugs would have been like $100. So,
wow.
I got that going for me.
Yeah, healthcare in the United States, we like to think that it's really good, but honestly, it kind of sucks, really.
Our healthcare really sucks. Ever since I learned about Canadian healthcare and then the broader European healthcare, I'm like, God, United States healthcare is garbage. Why do people always say we have the best healthcare? We certainly don't.
Quite simply, people don't bother to learn about other systems. I mean, it's really just down to that. People have this, I guess, false sense of pride or, misplaced pride, really in everything American. And boy, I'm sounding like a real grump, but it's true.
I think that's actually pretty, I don't know if it's unique, but it's pretty much an American trait, like, to say that America's the greatest country. Like, I heard that my entire life growing up as a kid. It took me until I was in college to actually do a little bit of learning about other cultures and countries and things to be like, actually, America kind of sucks at a lot of stuff. And we're pretty good at some things, but for the most part, we're average. And then we have some really crappy healthcare and really crappy insurance. And right now, especially really shitty politicians.
Well, I haven't been keeping up. Well, I've been keeping up, but I haven't heard the results of the Alabama race. So I guess we'll see if there's still another shitty politician or not.
Yeah, the last few news stories I saw about that were about how people, because they had purged their voter registries, people are showing up and being told they're not allowed to vote. And there's quite a few people. There's talk
Can't imagine why.
There's talk about a lawsuit against the Alabama state government just because there's something like 1 million people who lost the ability to vote and they weren't given any notice that they were purged from the registration. So
yeah, and considering you have to go through a lot of waiting around usually on election day unless you get there early.
Yeah.
I would be highly pissed. And the fact that they make it on a Tuesday, it doesn't make a lot of sense these days.
Yep. Greatest fucking country in the world, guys. Greatest fucking country. The greatest at being a dumbass.
The greatest at being full of themselves, of having this inflated sense of self-worth, I think is the best way to really say it. And I realize we're going deep into the political, but we're going to have it next week, especially considering Thursday is the net neutrality vote. Yep. Expect a lot more politics talk next week.
Yep, you can. Enjoy the last episode before we lose net neutrality, guys. I hate
no.
What's happened for you to say actually no?
Vote Thursday, release Friday. So our episode we're recording before, but releasing after.
You're right. The days of net neutrality are long gone, dear listeners.
Unless something happened.
Well, there's that bill that's being sponsored in Congress right now to stop the vote and change the way that the FCC's change. I forget exactly what it is. I read through it, but it's writing specific legislation to protect the internet, to take it out of the FCC's control.
Which is sad that it has to even be done like that.
Yeah. But I mean, that was just sponsored like last week, so I don't think that they could get it
that's
done
not going to pass. That's not going to pass in time.
Yep.
Yeah, the big problem with everything around net neutrality is that it's not easy to really explain to the layperson or why it's so important, and then there's all the misinformation from really the internet service providers. So they think it's a great thing that, the net neutrality has gone away because it's tough to really understand. And we'll be going more into this next week.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, but I'm listening to music and Ailstorm comes up and I just hear, fuck you. You are fucking white girl. My theme song. And pretty much how I feel about the FCC these days.
Indeed. Well, let's move away from things that are not video games to actually talk about video games in our video game show. Rage, what games have you been playing for the last 2 weeks? Because
I've got a couple.
Okay.
Let's start with my one Sunday sampler because I had I struck out on the second one. I tried 3 games and two just didn't want to record. Either didn't record that well or I thought would make boring videos. And then third was just, I don't have it on my list though, because I played it for 15 minutes and I stopped, uninstalled. It's like, no. But let's see. My first one is Carried Away. This is sort of a take on the Bridge Builder game, only it's building ski lifts. It's an interesting take on things because you have to really consider a lot of different engineering challenges in this engineering puzzle game is what I call this sort of little subgenre of things. And it's an interesting take on it because, like I said, there's a few different styles of ski lifts that you have to contend with. You have to deal with your traditional ski lift, and then you have gondolas, which are heavier and move faster, so it puts more stress on things, and you have to also build drag lines, which run along the ground, and the skier grabs and is drug up the hill. It's not a bad start. There are a few things that I didn't like about it. For one, there's also a skier mode where you're controlling the skier and you're making jumps, and I'm pretty sure that all the jumps are made out of twigs and little bits of cloth because they're fucking fragile. And it's really annoying as hell to try to deal with them. Either that or all the skiers are made out of depleted uranium.
Maybe it's both.
Well, let's put it this way. trying to make a ramp that a skier could go down a long hill, hit the ramp, and then be launched is a lot more annoying than it should be. Even though they do have it where you're able to tweak things very easily without having to rebuild an entire section of structure or build an entirely new structure just to slightly tweak a ramp or slightly tweak the way a line is carried, which is nice. That's a nice touch on things, but trying to get it where the forces don't rip jumps apart made the skier mode more annoying than it should have been. And also the fact that, okay, you control a skier, all right, in the skier mode, or you have the ability to control the skier, crouch, be able to jump or lean forward and back. If there is more than one skier, you're controlling only one of the skiers. And they come in two shorter intervals to be able to switch between them to control each and every one. And because the skier doesn't, leave like a control flag or anything, like you're going down the hill and you crouch, what I would have liked to seen is all the skiers behind that skier also crouch, mirror the controls once they get to that point. You see what I'm saying here?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But because it doesn't do that, it makes the control of the skier function, if you have more than one on the level, which is often, completely useless. Oh, and there's also snowmobiles, which work about the same way, only they're powered so they can go up hills. And they're also a lot heavier, which makes the problem with all the jumps even worse because they're so fragile that you have to really, really build heavy duty for a snowmobile. And listening to me rag on this game, you would think I absolutely hate it, but I actually liked it. It's just, there's this kind of bell curve for me. If I sort of like a game, I kind of liked it and that's about it. If I really liked a game, I start picking out a lot more that I disliked about it. And if I really hated a game, I rip it to shreds. And this got over the curve.
Right. Yeah, I watched your Sunday sampler for this because it looked pretty interesting. And I still think it looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, there are a couple other things. Like, it does this weird loading with the physics where if there's... it's particularly bad on the gondolas since there are a heavier thing where it'll kind of just drop everything and the cable is very elastic. Well, you saw it on the Sunday sampler. You saw exactly what I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of droop, and because especially the gondolas are so heavy, it causes a stress load that on any other load would have, the entire system would have done fine. But because of that sudden spike, it breaks something and then, the entire thing comes down. Granted, you can build around that, but it's unintuitive. It's something that you have to really brace for. And because of how the elasticity of the cable makes it a little unpredictable on what will and will pass. As a matter of fact, I set up a level in my Sunday sampler to fail, and there was something going on with how it renders the physics, where it actually passed when I was recording it, but when I wouldn't record it, it failed. It was, some sort of Schrodinger's level, Or, it was in a quantum state when I observed it, it would be one thing, but when I didn't observe it, it would be something completely different. Because funny. when I wasn't recording it, all the skiers would kind of clip this tree and they would fall off the ski lift and, level failed. But when I was recording it, I guess it put just enough stress on the CPU that it did some sort of rounding. And everybody would just kind of bump on this tree and just kind of pop up and that's it. It was kind of funny that I set up something like that and it completely did something, completely different. But you saw the Sunday sampler, so any questions?
I don't think so. Actually, one question. How much does this compare or feel overall to like other sort of like bridge, whatever, simulator type games?
Well, there's the two modes, really, where the jump mode, it feels a lot like, let's say, Poly Bridge, or, standard bridge builder, But because the focus of the game is mostly on the ski lifts, it does feel very different because you're building essentially an inverted bridge, really, or, maybe a suspension bridge would be the proper term for it without the deck, So you're trying to build a high wire instead of this flat deck that, could be driven across. Granted, there are levels that kind of combine the two modes where you have the jump system where a skier goes up the hill and then comes down and hits a jump and then goes to the end of the level. I didn't show that on the video, though. I didn't encounter it until after I recorded, and I looked at one or two other levels. And the level editor is very robust, but it's also slightly unstable, or at least I did something that caused it to be unstable because it does a procedural generation of the level as you move everything around, and it generates the background as well. And it didn't like a particular way I drove the terrain, and it crashed. I mean, a hard crash, just right to desktop. It's nope, don't like that. That's way up past Double Diamond. But yeah, overall I liked it. It does have its flaws. It's still in early access, and they are doing monthly updates and adding the development roadmap is offering a lot of hope for more varied content, like bicycles, for example, mountain biking. Or I think that they're planning on something else as well, and adding more puzzle elements as well. On top of just adding flat out more levels. There are still a lot of levels in this already, and that's even before you get into the workshop. Overall, I'm impressed with it, though. It's a nice change of pace for the bridge builder engineering puzzle game genre. I really don't know what to call this. I mean, it's pretty much an engineering puzzler, though, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. I mean, it looks very much like a lot of bridge builder games that I've seen before.
Yeah,
just
it looks
with
like
a different theme and a couple extra things on top of it.
Well, it's just not the theme. It's really how it plays, just because you would think that, looking at the screenshots, it doesn't play that differently, but because of how they throw things at you, it is very different. And even just the different ski lifts require a fairly different building style, because the gondolas are so heavy. You have to really build something beefy. Drag lifts, you have to keep them close to the ground, and that's usually some sort of extra challenge. And standard ski lifts, you could get away with building a little bit more fragile.
Yeah.
But you still have to be careful with the ropes. And there's some crazy stuff in the workshop. And there's a lot of room to toy around with and to try to optimize your designs, which is really where this genre shines. If you're a completionist and wanting to tweak things, the bridge builder genre is just perfect for you, because you could sit down and really try to figure out, okay, do I need all these supports? Does the bridge actually have to stay up?
Does it have to stay up forever, or just long enough to get this one thing across it?
Oh, there's a few levels that there's a planned failure that I've seen that has the skier just be flung across the map. It's actually quite impressive, and it has a built-in replay system that's also really impressive that I didn't really get to show off that well, because it's recording a recording and showing a recording. It's odd.
Yeah.
But overall, a pretty good entry into the genre. So, how about something a little bit different?
Okay.
Shadow Warrior 2. This, I knew what I was getting into, and I absolutely loved the first Shadow Warrior once I got past, some of the level design, because there's a few places in Shadow Warrior where it's, you have to go around like a dark corner in order to figure out what the hell is going on, and it doesn't show you all that well. Shadow Warrior 2, it's a looter shooter. Think Borderlands almost. But kind of an inverse Borderlands, where instead of getting tons of guns, well, that's not to say that you don't get tons of guns. There's like 80 guns in this game. You're getting a bunch of augments, and you're able to swap them on the fly to, augment your guns and to change how they behave. Throw a akimbo augment into a revolver, and suddenly you got 2 revolvers.
Woohoo!
That sort of thing. And it's an interesting way to take the looter shooter, because usually these type of things, they go with 20 billion guns, and they're all slightly different stat-wise. But because of how Shadow Warrior works, or I should say Shadow Warrior 2, it makes it so that you can feel attached to the guns, but still constantly upgrade them and, tweak them ever so slightly. And it feels a lot better to me, to be perfectly honest, where you're able to form that attachment like, I absolutely love this chainsaw. I'm going to use this chainsaw. And I could tweak it like, okay, this guy is weak to fire. Well, let's put a fire augment and have a flaming chainsaw and, start hacking at him. Like a lumberjack, right?
Yes, please. Flaming chainsaw.
It's an interesting system on how they change things. Granted, I do see some flaws in it, where it is a looter shooter and it is a chunk-based, randomly designed level. Where you have chunks of levels and they're kind of just smashed in together, and that's your level. And there's times that the traversal of the levels can be a little bit cumbersome because of just, okay, we need to go kill this boss on this level. And you have to go all the way across the level, go through some caves, up and around. And then you look at the map and it's like, I don't know where the fuck to go from here. Good luck. So there is that navigation problem that I was having in the first Shadow Warrior. Granted, it was just, it was not really used to how they were designing the levels in the first one. Cropping up again, only this time it's just the random generation, making it so that there's really no landmarks. So you're trying to figure out what the hell is going on based on pings on the map and this pseudo think of GTA GPS, where sometimes it gets a little drunk.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, think of it instead of that. It's, you're sitting in a cave and it's telling you to go one direction, and whenever you know that goes completely the wrong direction, because it's the only way that it figured out to get to this ladder to be able to continue on through the level. While you still have a lot of movement abilities. You have a double jump, you have dashes, you're able to climb and go across roofs. And it doesn't really support that on the GPS. And because of that conflict of information, it makes it very confusing at times. And like I said, just with the lack of real landmarks because of how everything is kind of smooshed together. It's like, okay, here you go. Overall, though, I will say that the combat is very satisfying. I mean, it has to be because, that's really the crux of this, because they're putting a lot more emphasis on side missions, on just go do this thing because we need you to go kill a guy, I mean, you are Lo Wang. Pause for a chuckle.
Hey-o.
And believe me, there are a lot of dick jokes. Let's see. What was the way the Wang is long, hard, and ribbed for her pleasure? And it is over the top. It is glorious. I mean, let's put it this way. One of the weapons is a fucking chainsaw. You're a ninja with a chainsaw charging at people.
Yes.
I mean, that pretty much says it right there, what to expect with this game, to be perfectly honest. And it's great. I will say that I haven't really encountered too many bullet sponges, which was my other big complaint about Borderlands, and especially Borderlands 2, once you got further into the game, where it seemed like everything took, half a clip or a full clip. Things do drop fairly quickly, with the exception of bosses, and there's this one particular type of enemy that I encountered just toying around, where, fuck that guy. They teleport around like crazy, and it is very tough to kill. It's not impossible, but it is tough. And bosses typically, you knock them down for a fair amount of health. They go invulnerable and spawn a bunch of ads. You deal with them. The boss becomes vulnerable again, and then you either kill it or have a second wave of that. And that's the closest I've hit to a bullet sponge, to be perfectly honest. It's almost Warframe-ish, where it puts the emphasis on you being an absolute badass and cutting through a lot of people. But it also allows you to really feel attached to your weapons because you're constantly upgrading them. You're getting just all these augments, all these abilities. You have your chi powers. Some are returning from the first game. Some are brand new, like be able to shoot spikes up and be able to just penetrate people and get them hanging up in the air, and then you're just able to finish them off. It's a lot of fun, but if you're looking for a more story-based game, the story is there, but unless you're really good at first-person shooters, it requires you to go off and do other things, because there's this leveling system where you're building up your skill points and getting new abilities, building up your health, building up your guns. And if you don't do that, yes, it is technically possible to be able to progress, but it gets harder and harder and harder because you're falling behind the curve. And that feels like a little bit of a detriment to me. It really depends on how much you like just running around with a chainsaw at a bunch of Yakuza,
Yeah. It sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, and it does have multiplayer as up to 4-person co-op.
Ooh.
And I really like how
for us to do.
Well, I was originally going to record it, but the thing is that it is running my PC to the absolute max, to the point where I've actually had to go into my old specs and figure out what is going on, because it's causing a heat issue. It's running my CPU 100% across all the cores, which says a lot with how this game is built, to be perfectly honest. That's running on all the cores.
That's good, though.
Yeah.
Because do you have an 8-core CPU?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's good, because most
games I was trying to figure out,
only hit 2 to 4.
Really I was trying to figure out, okay, why am I getting, occasional just frame rate drops rather sharply for about a second, and then comes back up? And then I was looking at my monitoring applications. It's like, I'm getting a heat issue. And then I noticed my CPU usage was 100%. So I am able to play it, but I'm not able to record it because it puts just enough stress on things, which was frustrating. Because that's originally why I got this, was to be able to record it.
Right.
But I do like how they handled, who's the protagonist on multiplayer. As in, you are the protagonist. For you, you'd be Lo Wang, and I'd be a random ninja. For me, I'd be Lo Wang, and you would be a random ninja.
Nice.
And they do have the one issue that I had, well, I should say the major issue I had with Lo Wang was that, but it's really the problem with any vocal protagonist, is that you start to hear the same voice lines very quickly. And if you don't like Lo Wang, making acupuncture jokes whenever you shoot somebody with a bow and arrow, you're going to really not like this game.
Well, I'd be okay with that. I'd like those jokes.
Yeah, I just wish... it's kind of weird to wish this was a more linear game, to be perfectly honest. Or I should say a more emphasis on the story, because you do have a lot of side activities to do, and there's a free DLC that also adds a lot more side activities to do. but it feels like almost that the story is kind of just a secondary thing. It's not that important to to do this thing that is very important because we need you to go kill a bunch of demonic bunnies.
Oh, really? Demonic bunnies?
Yeah. How
much does this game cost?
Well, I got it on Chrono GG for $15.
It's $40 on Steam. It's on my wish list.
Is this one we're going to have to save for recording?
Maybe. That might be a good idea, because if it's maxing out your CPU, you'll have to wait till you get your upgraded system. Yeah,
which has gotten pushed back because of personal reasons. Yeah. But overall, I really enjoyed the combat. And just how much emphasis they have on movement, and the fact that you do have an option to go stealthy if you really want to. But to be perfectly honest, I think it's more fun just to go absolutely nuts. And with how they have everything set up where you can augment for like health steal and that sort of thing, it is very possible to grab your sword and just go absolutely berserk. Or your chainsaw.
My chainsaw. My flaming, life-stealing chainsaw. That's what I want.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, isn't that all we ever want?
This is true.
And there's, and I'm not even highlighting some of the more interesting things. Like, there's an augment that allows you to throw your gun down and it becomes a turret. There's charge up mechanics where you could have a grenade launcher that you hold down fire and it powers up the shot. There's I would say about 10 hours that I played, just doing the random side stuff. And there is free roam modes as well. So you could also go back and, randomly kill things as well. There's different grenade launchers. There's, I would say I got 4 or 5 different options for swords, assault rifles, SMGs, a baseball bat. I mean, it's just crazy the amount of weapons that you get. Oh, and you have 8 weapon slots.
Nice.
8 weapon slots, and you could change your equipped weapons in the middle of a mission. And you could change augments in the middle of your mission. So, in reality, it's 8 quick swap slots and 80 weapons.
Nice. I'm in.
You want to join the Way of the Wang?
Yeah, I do.
And they also start off with the same, sort of the same opening from the previous Shadow Warrior game, where 80s rock.
I like 80s rock.
Oh, such a fun time. So let's go to a not so fun time.
All right, go for it.
Never Alone. This is a game that I feel like I should like a lot more than I do. But this is what I've been playing on my channel lately. Just trying to get some content out there. As my other content is in the process of getting set up and Jared having a life. So Never Alone is a 2D puzzle platformer based around an Inuit folktale. And I absolutely love the theme and the story of it so far. But the gameplay has just gotten in such a way of things. It has pissed me off to no degree. As a matter of fact, let me send you a link, alright? This is going to be a GIF of my video, I would say 5 minutes into the first episode. 5 to 10 minutes, alright?
Okay.
I want you to watch this.
Come on, give me the link. I mean, well, you have given me the link. Meant Skype.
You control either a Inuit girl or a snow fox.
Okay, I'm watching. Wait, did you just zoom?
Yes. She got stuck in a platform.
and then shot off, and then the fox jumps up and then down.
Well, I was controlling the fox at the time, and I'm trying to, it's like, okay, what? It was a mixture of what just happened and laughing my ass off.
That's great.
Yeah, there's been a lot of moments similar to that where she's gotten stuck in things. There's been some weird clipping or because of how they have this sort of 2.5D thing going on, the foreground or the background either looks like a platform or doesn't look like a platform, where it's thrown off the platforming. It's been very frustrating to the point that it's taken me out of the story a lot. To the point where, in the latest episode that I just released, there was this big emotional moment. But because I was so fucking frustrated with this game, I just didn't care. And it's been very disheartening because I really wanted to like this game. But damn. I mean,
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I
was going to say, a lot of the stuff that you're saying is what I remember, like, TB and other people saying when this game came out. Years ago?
Yeah, I never really listened to what was going on with it outside of, just the general consensus of it. And I bought this for like $2. So I can't be that mad about the money I spent on it.
Yeah.
But damn, they needed some serious quality control on this because there's a lot of little things. There was one sequence where I failed because it feels like it's built around co-op, to be perfectly honest, because if you're controlling one character in single player, the AI controls the other one. And the AI could sometimes fall behind, and there's a lot of timed platforming sequences where you have to go through a series of jumps very quickly, and the platforming is very heavy. It's very weighty. I guess Tron would be a good example of this, where everything feels very sluggish, and done well, it's fine. But it requires a lot more precision than, something like, Mario or Super Beat Boy or something, where it's a lot more movement based, it's a lot more fast paced. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And because they're not able to really resolve the weightiness and have this clumsiness to this weighty, slow platforming, and especially since they're throwing in puzzle elements as well, and timed puzzle elements and timed platforming elements in this sluggish, slightly buggy platformer, it's just really pissed me off at times. Which is a shame because this could have been a real opportunity to show a culture that just really isn't shown in really media in general. I mean, think about it. Discounting Avatar: The Last Airbender, what's a media that has Inuits in it? That's shown without them being, kind of stereotypical, wise native person, or, just kind of just thrown in there. But, shown in a positive light. It's tough for me to really
Avatar. Think. Which you just said without mentioning that. But that's the only thing that comes to mind outside of this.
Yeah, it just feels like such a missed opportunity, to be perfectly honest. This is something that should have been worked on, I would say, a good couple more months, because it's just, bug testing and really polishing. Either that or this fell to victim to, the developers knowing exactly how to play, and you throw it to, the general population that don't know how to play the game, and the clunkiness comes out.
Yeah.
Because the developers may know, okay, well, the fox spirit follows the girl a lot closer than the girl follows the fox spirit. And so, in this time platforming section, you switch to the girl and you'll get through it every time. But, if you're in the previous section where, the fox was the focus and you have to pay attention to that, then it really, kind of gets a little clunky. And there's also some weird things with, the platform that I showed you in the GIF, is a spirit that only appears whenever the fox is nearby. Well, there's sections where the spirits will follow the fox through the screen, and the girl either stands on him or clings to him. Well, in some areas, there's the obvious solution, but the obvious solution sometimes isn't correct because the developer says so. And there's one sequence where I was having trouble figuring out what was going on because you unlock this spirit and it was clinging to the wall, and the girl grabs onto the spirit, and then it follows the fox as the fox goes up an adjacent wall. And in order to get that spirit in the first place, you had to follow that path. All right? Well, the solution to that section was to do a more elaborate jump off this other spirit that you unlocked, because the fox is able to kind of claw its way up a wall for a short period of time. But it's not an obvious solution whenever the other way is more elegant and a way that you already went. You see where I'm going with this now?
Yes.
Your eyes are glazing over, aren't they?
A little bit.
It's just a very, very clunky puzzle platformer, and it's really put me off on it because of just... it could have been so much better. Which is saddening, to be perfectly honest. Oh, well. Moving along? Unless you have questions?
Nah. I mean, like I said, you said a lot of stuff that I remember, like TV and others saying about this game.
Yeah, and wasn't really paid attention to the hype around it. It looked interesting, and I waited until it was on deep discount.
Right.
Which is typically how these sort of things go. And it's something I wanted to try eventually. It could have been, in the League of Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons if it was done better. Because it has sort of that general feel. But just with how they handled the platforming, I would have loved to have seen this more polished. So, speaking of things about polish, let's go to Battlerite.
Alrighty.
This has been a game that's really surprised me, to be perfectly honest, because I tried it on kind of a lark. We didn't record last week, so, I figured, I'll throw in something a little bit random. And this really was interesting to me. This is, it's kind of hard to really describe because the obvious way to describe it would be MOBA, but it's not a MOBA. Or at least not the main mode. It's a multiplayer online battle arena. Where, think of it as essentially the team fight in League of Legends with all the boring bits cut out. And the reason why it's so interesting to me, for one, it's not tying into an RTS skill set that I'm lacking. Everything is skill shot, yes, and you're using your mouse to aim with a few extra abilities than you would have in a MOBA, or I should say League of Legends style MOBA. But for one, you're moving with WASD, so that's a huge plus for me right away because I'm able to draw on more of a twin stick shooter feel, and where everything is more skill shot oriented, there's less kind of just random bullshit going on, and it's also a lot more clearly designed. Where, yes, the different champions, heroes, whatever you want to call them, have their own different abilities, but there's a set artistic style where all the shield abilities share a very similar look. All the area effect abilities share a very similar look on how the AoE is about to land. And it's very clear to a layperson what exactly is going on at a glance without having to spend hundreds of hours of going into the game. Plus, there's not a huge cast of characters yet. There's about 20-ish. So there's enough variety where you're not hitting the same ones all the time, but at the same time, there's not, the League of Legends 200 characters where they're all slightly different. Yeah. And because it's a PvP game. I mean, straight up. You're not having to worry about, okay, well, this particular hero is great in late game because they're able to farm up and get all the stuff out of the shop. There's none of that. It's literally just go in, kill things. And it's a very interesting way to do it because, well, for one, they're using sort of the Overwatch model mixed with League of Legends, where they have the free rotation of heroes. I think it's 2 out of every class, and there's 8 in the melee and ranged, and I think there's 7 in support, which support is more, okay, these characters could heal and do something else. Then, this one could only buff and that sort of thing. So you have your free rotation, but you also have the Overwatch model of, as you level up, you're getting chests with different cosmetics. The loot chest things, which, and free to play games like this, don't really have a problem with loot chests, to be perfectly honest. But they're generous enough with the coins, the currency in the game, that I've been able to get with just really playing with the AI and, getting a feel for some of the heroes. I've gotten about a quarter of the heroes so far. I mean,
how long have you played? How long?
I've gotten, I don't have Steam up right now, so I would say probably 10, 12 hours, I think.
That's pretty quick for a game of this type or genre or whatever you want to say, with it being free to play.
Yeah, created some of the, I don't want to call them more powerful. I would say less user-friendly. Okay, I just went to my Steam profile. 9.7 hours.
Okay. So
right at 10 hours. All the heroes feel pretty well balanced. All the heroes have their movement abilities of some sort, either a teleport or they're able to go invisible for a short time. They have some sort of crowd control. The support heroes have some way to heal, either AoE heal or it's a byproduct of their left click attack, their basic attack. But they feel all pretty well balanced. Are there stronger compositions? Yes, but that's really just comes down to how certain heroes come together. Because a support hero with a lot of health, backed up by a very powerful healer in support, will be a lot more powerful than 2 very squishy range characters. But the matches are very short. Each round is 2 minutes before this whirling death cloud starts rolling into the arena. And if you're outside the circle, you start taking massive damage. And it forces everyone to the center to basically finish the round. And it's best of 5. So I would say minimum 5, maximum of 10 minutes. So even if you do hit some sort of odd skill gap or you're just having a bad time, you're not in a match long enough for it to really matter. And there's a few other things where as you take damage, your maximum health depletes. So support heroes are less important than you would think on their healing side of things, where let's say you take a hit and you drop down to half health. Well, you could be healed up to some extent, but you're not going to go back up to full health. Or I should say the maximum that your character would normally have. But there are health orbs scattered around the arena that will increase that maximum health, as well as heal you, of course. And there's energy orbs, which will give you extra energy. And then there's the orb in the center, which takes a fair number of hits, which gives a large amount of health and a large amount of energy. And it's last hit on that. And that's the closest thing that you have to a minion in this game. And a lot of the game comes around to who gets that last hit on the orb, because it could really swing things. It's an interesting design for things.
It both looks and sounds good after you've described it. And I mean, we talked about it a little bit before as well.
Yeah, so far, I'm really liking this kind of support shaman character that has this wolf she could send out to damage people, and she's a support character, so she's able to heal. There's 5 abilities plus the movement ability, which is always on the space bar. And on top of that, you can also burn some of your energy as you damage things or heal things. You're building up your energy for your ultimate. which is usually your most powerful ability. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's more situational than anything else. But you're also able to spend energy to augment certain abilities, and each hero has different things. Like the healer I have, she's able to spend energy on her teleport, which could also do a damage reduction on allies or damage increase on enemies. It sounds like a lot, but it's one of those things that after you play it for a bit, you really start to get a feel for it. And this game also has a very robust just training mode and sort of a pseudo playground where you're able to go into the arena with a bunch of target dummies with any hero, locked or unlocked, turn on infinite energy and just fool around and toy around with some of the Battlerites, which the Battlerites are modifiers for different abilities. So you could set this loadout for, I want to have a more damage-oriented support character. So you could set your Battlerites to be more damage-oriented, or you could set it to be more survival-oriented, or really a mixture of the two. You have a choice of 5 Battlerites out of, depending on the hero, 10 to 15. So it makes a lot more customization than you would think about this game. So far, I've really enjoyed it. Granted, I am still mostly playing against the AI, and it's good enough to get a feel for, but it's not putting up a huge challenge. I've been going through the characters as they go through the free rotation, just getting a feel for things. Because that really seems to be what you should do for at least the beginning of the game, to get a feel for, okay, this character has this shield ability that if you hit him in melee, he's going to stun you. If you hit him with ranged, there's a chance that he can bounce back and hit you. So don't do that. But it's been fun so far, even in the training mode.
Yeah, like I said, it looks interesting.
It's 2-on-2 and or 3-on-3 for the arena mode, and there's some sort of like base attack thing. It looks like where you go kill a guardian, the enemy base. I don't want to call it MOBA mode because I don't think there's minions, but I haven't tried it yet. But I would like to play with you sometime.
I was gonna say I'll have to download this and see if I like it. If I do, then we can play 2v2.
Yeah, I would say it's more twin stick shooter than MOBA on how it handles things. Everything is either skill shots, direct shot, or there are some AoEs, but they're usually longer cooldowns. But you were saying or asking?
Oh, well, you said twin stick shootery. I said, does it have? I was gonna say, does it have control?
I don't think so. It would be tough to do controller support with this because there's a lot of, well, I shouldn't say there's a lot, but there's usually at least one ability on a hero that has some sort of AoE that you have to target. But it's usually, as more of a situational thing. Like, let's see, Asga, this fire mage, he's able to throw out this flame wall, and you have to target the area for that. And his ultimate is a directional ability. So you could do that with twin stick, controller support, but it would be tougher. You probably could do some sort of profile with the Steam controller because it does a location or a lock to controller setting. Be able to lock the stick to or lock the mouse to your character and the area around it. But that would be more difficult. I would say that's definitely mouse and keyboard, though. They would have to change the game too much, I think, to be really controller supportive. All
right. Well, I am downloading it right now.
And they do throw out the cosmetics quite a lot. My character, or all the characters have their own level system, where as you play with them, and it's just unlocking either cosmetics, currency, or the loot chests. You get them from leveling up characters and for your account level. And so far, the account level seems to be pretty consistent of getting a level every few matches. And that's even just playing on the AI, which gives lower score. Or at least I think it gives lower score. I know it gives less gold. But like I said, it's a training mode. I'm getting a feel for the different characters and seeing what I like. And I want to have at least 2 characters I'm proficient with before diving into PvP, because it is very skill-based.
Alrighty. What else you got? You got one more.
Yeah, and this is Xenonauts, a throwback to old XCOM. And I've been thinking about how to talk about this, and how to say that I've liked my feelings about it. I think I figured out the best way. I like this game so much, I bought it twice.
Yes, you did. You bought it one time for me.
Yep, and you didn't get around to it yet, so you can't do the comparison.
I haven't played it yet.
But this is a throwback to old XCOM with some twists on it from what I understand based on what you were saying. It's the 1970s for one, so it's older technology. And they do a few things differently. I'm trying to think of the best way to really dive into this, because it's an XCOM game, or XCOM-like game, so pretty much you already know the basics of it. Turn-based strategy, grid layout, go around, shoot aliens.
Right.
But they address some of the things that really didn't make sense in the mainline reboot of the XCOM series, like, why the hell am I only sending out, 4 people for a squad?
Starting with 4 up to 6, and then if you use the Long War mod, you can get that up to 10.
Well, this, you start off with 8, and then you go up to, I believe, 12. And you're also able to throw in scout cars pretty early, but it takes up the room of 2 people because of, weight. Your helicopter just can't carry it, and all the soldiers, so it's limited by room and weight. So it's throwing in a lot more management and tweaking a lot earlier than the mainline XCOM series, and the fact that there's no set classes, so everything is stat based. You have all your soldiers with their various stats, but you're able to change everything in between missions. This guy didn't work out as a sniper? Give him a fucking assault rifle. You're a rifleman now. Good luck. And just that freedom of having the ability to tweak around and do different things was really refreshing to me. And just other things that make a lot more sense in this game, like the ability to have more than one landing craft and sending out multiple squads. The cover system is a little bit more obtuse than the XCOM series, because I just wasn't used to 8-directional, sorry, 9-directional, wouldn't it be? Because, no, 8. 8-directional cover. So my first few times trying to play the game, I just got slaughtered because I was thinking I was in cover, but because they were approaching me kind of catty-corner, I wasn't in the proper position, was getting shot, and I wasn't understanding what was going on. So that's probably my biggest complaint about it, is that they're a little bit obscuring on the cover system. But that's also coming from the new XCOM to a homage to the old XCOM.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what the cover system was on the old XCOM, because you and I had we were chatting the other night, and you were saying stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that from the old XCOM, but I can't remember what the cover system was like from the old.
Yeah, it was just kind of throwing me off, and the fact that crouching is so important in this game. Not just behind cover, but also to steady your weapon for shots. And this doesn't use the 2-movement system of the newer XCOM series. This uses time units, like the old XCOM, right?
Yeah.
Where actions take a certain amount of time. Digging around your backpack for, that pistol you stashed in there takes a certain amount of time units. Firing takes a certain amount of time units, and depending on the amount of time units you invest in the shot, which improves your accuracy, you're able to shoot more than once. Moving around takes time units, of course. It's something that makes a lot more sense, to be perfectly honest, because you're also able to do things with other units, then come back to a unit that you're using before and continue your actions. So let's say, my rifleman is being flanked. I switch to my shotgunner. Have him go around, throw a flashbang to stun the alien. Switch back to my rifleman. Get him into cover. Switch back to the shotgunner. Get him into cover, and then open fire, assuming I have enough time units left. In the newer XCOM reboots, I couldn't do anything like that.
No. In the newer XCOM, you get 2 actions per turn, which can be moving, shooting, using equipment, using an ability. And, once you do your 2 things, you're done. And most of the time, if you move, you can't do a second... Or, no. If you shoot, you can't move.
Yeah, and in this, you could shoot then move.
Yeah, you can move and shoot, but you can't shoot and move.
Which, doesn't really make a lot of sense. I like the time unit system a lot better, even though it's a more obtuse, and I understand why the reboot uses it, because it makes it more streamlined. It's a lot easier to explain in a tutorial. This, it doesn't really have that great a tutorial system. It's more mess around it with a bit. Okay, I think I understand this system now. Okay, what do these stats do? Okay, all right. Now I think I understand. Your first few missions and your first few playthroughs, because you will want to restart, is more just getting a feel for the systems, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, setting up your base is important, but it's more the location of your base. Because this isn't like the first XCOM where you have... you're trying to focus on really a single continent for the first part of the game until you're able to launch satellites. This, you build up your base, try to get it to where it could cover more than one funding area, and then pretty much immediately start building a second base for more coverage. It's a weird system, to be perfectly honest.
It does sound a lot like the original XCOM, though, because you could have multiple bases, and you could only operate so far from your original base.
Yeah.
And there were pros and cons to your starting base, because it's like, if you pick like a really, pick like the United States or China or somewhere in Europe to have your first base, then you're going to have a lot sort of bigger, hotter missions right off the bat because of the population centers, but...
Yeah, this doesn't have
quicker
that,
access.
at least yet. I'm still pretty early in my playthrough. I'm based out of North Africa, and my radar range is able to cover most of Europe, pretty much all the Middle East, and some of South Africa. So I'm able to protect a good chunk of my areas, and because of how the system works is that based on your difficulty, if you lose too many continents to the aliens... or too many funding areas, I guess I should say, because it's broken up into various areas. And they do clarify that, some areas don't make a geographical sense because they clump Canada and United States in as North America and then put Mexico into Central America just to give a bigger chunk instead of just having this little slither for Central America. If you lose too many areas, it's game over. So you pretty much have to expand pretty quickly. It may end up being the first part of the game has a best way to play and then it becomes a lot more open. But so far I've been enjoying just, figuring out what my perfect unit compositions is. Filling out my unit roster. Toying around with, okay, I have people that have really good shots, but their strength is really weak. So don't want to put them anywhere near the front line. Let's make them snipers. Looking at my possible soldiers and picking out the best of the best. And just the fact that there's no, okay, this guy looked pretty good. Ah, crap. The game decided that he was going to be this class I don't need. I don't have to deal with that. Granted, I also lose the ability to give them perks, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make because usually those perks are something that's kind of built into this base game anyway. Like squad sight, for example, for snipers, which was pretty much a requirement in the original XCOM, or original reboot XCOM. Ugh.
Yeah, it still is a requirement for XCOM.
It's pretty much baked into all the snipers. They're able to shoot as long as they have line of sight. And something that I do like is that whenever you're lining up your shot, it draws the path of the bullet. So you're able to see, okay, I have a 80% chance to hit, but it's going to clip my rifleman, and he has, a 15% chance to block the bullet, and blocking the bullet means, with his skull. Yes, there is friendly fire in this game, by the way. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out of the game. Granted, there is still, XCOM moments of missing 95% shots, but granted, that is still a 5% chance to miss. But there's less guesswork. There's less glitchy oddball cameras because it is in the isometric view. There's a lot more things that make sense. Like I said, just the squad size in general. It gives you a lot more strategic choices where, okay, I want to have somebody that is a breach unit. Send him in with a riot shield and a pistol and a bunch of grenades. And the reboot of XCOM, because of such a limited pool of units that you have on the field at any one time, even with the expanded squad size, it feels like you're really gipping yourself. In this, if my breach unit doesn't really make an impact, well, I still have 7 other units on the field, and that's even before I improve the dropship to have 10 units, or have the squad car, so I have, 5 other units and a squad car moving around. I mean, it's things like that makes it feel a lot better to me.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to play it this week, and I think I'm going to compare it sort of in my head, both to old XCOM and then XCOM Reboot with mods.
Yeah, granted, I haven't played as much Reboot XCOM because I've always screwed up on 2 aspects of the newer XCOM. One, base management. This stuff does have the base management still where you're building up your base, but there's no adjacency bonuses that you have to worry about. There's no, there's a steam in this area, so if I build here, I'm losing possible extra power in this area. There's no power generation in this game. You're able to draw, I guess, off the power grid or whatever, So there's none of that. There's, though, having to dig down deeper into the area, or deeper into the ground for the original Reboot XCOM. That's a hell of a mouthful. It's just spread out over this square, and you're building out from the central hub of the base. And you don't have to fill out everything completely. You could have a base where it's just literally fighters and radar and a couple missile turrets if the aliens come a little too close. And there is a dogfighting sort of mini game, but I don't really play it too much just yet. Just throw enough jets to be able to auto-resolve. But it's 2D radar-esque, send in your jets, shoot down the alien craft, and then send in the dropship. Night missions are a lot of fun, though, but I'm going to save that for you to find out on your own.
Okay. Can't wait then.
Any questions?
I don't think so, because I'm going to play it this week, so I don't want to spoil anything for myself by accident.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I have took a bit of the bite out of the learning curve for you, just telling you to crouch. Crouching gives you an immediate 20% bonus to miss chance on an incoming fire.
Yeah, I mean, that was a thing in original XCOM.
Well, see, because there's the auto crouch in the reboot, it's something I didn't really consider.
Yeah.
Oh, and also, one other thing I really like about this is that whenever you encounter an alien, there's no cutscene where they all scramble to cover. you're able to catch an alien out and kill it.
Yeah, I hate that scramble mechanic. That was one of the worst things about.
Yeah, and they kept it, didn't they?
Sort of. You know, there's in XCOM 2, there's this mechanic where that you can, because you're like guerrilla fighting forces, you can hide, and so you can see the other guys move around the map. And if you get spotted on your turn, everyone stays where they are. But if you get spotted on their turn, then they get that opportunity to like rush to cover. So like if you fuck up, you don't get punished for it, aside from the fact that you got spotted. But if they find you on their movement, to cover.
Yeah, on this, if you encounter an enemy, movement stops because it's using the time unit instead of, if you had movement stop in the reboot, that would really be bad.
Yeah.
But in this, the unit stops and it draws your attention to where the alien is, but the alien doesn't move. Granted, there is a reflex mechanic. It's sort of an auto Overwatch mechanic, but it's based off every unit's reflex stat. So a unit that has a higher reflex stat is more likely to take reflex shots, and is also, I believe, more accurate with them. So there's kind of a give and take on what you want to do with your turn units. And as the units go through battle, their stats improve based on what happened to them. If they used a lot of their time units, they slowly build up and get more time units. If they took damage, there's a chance that they'll become more resilient to damage because I guess scarring. Scars are cool, right?
Absolutely. Like chicks dig scars
until you get horribly deformed. There's a bell curve.
Fair enough.
But the stat mechanic makes it so that if a rifleman eventually takes enough tough shots and improves their accuracy, maybe you want to give him a sniper rifle. It makes it so that the rolls can be a lot more fluid. And because of how the equipment system works, you're free to do that completely. I mean, hell, I give all my guys C4 to be able to breach the alien ship a lot easier. Granted, that also sometimes leads to trouble where, losing some funds possibly if there's, I'm kind of giving the aliens. Because there's the recover mechanic, you shoot aliens, you recover corpses, and, I guess we could sell the alien kidney on the black market or something.
Woohoo! Who wants kidneys?
Kidneys. But yeah, that is Xenonauts. So far, really enjoyed it. Maybe I should do that on the channel sometime.
Maybe so.
I guess I would go through my name list so quickly because, 8-man squads at the very beginning. And there are a few mods for this game. I've only really installed the mods that give more names and more portraits. Just cosmetic stuff because I want to, get a feel for things.
Right.
But yeah, that's the games I've been playing for the last couple of weeks. And I've only, about doubled the time I thought I would be talking.
Yep. We're going to have to do some hackett on the topics, but that's fine. We're a video games podcast, and honestly, with all of the bad stuff in the news, it's nice to just talk about video games.
Hey, look at it this way. Only one of my games involved loot boxes.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it makes sense that, one of them involved loot boxes since it's a free-to-play game.
Very true.
And it's all cosmetic anyway.
None of my games involve loot boxes, even my one free-to-play game. But that's not the one I'm going to start with, because fuck good transitions. I'm going to talk about Soul Trader.
Soul
Trader. Soul is in SOL, solar system, not Soul, SOUL. Soul Trader is a top-down 2D space sim where there's a bunch of different ways to start the game. There's a story mode. I just played it in free mode.
Usually I start with the executable.
Fair play. But I just played it in free mode and started like at the very earliest point you can as like an 18-year-old. And it's got a really in-depth, interesting sort of story generating mechanic. So this is one of those you can do whatever you want games, and family history and contacts, and it's a game that acknowledges it's not what you know, it's who you know. And so you spend like the first 25 or 30 minutes of the game, if you do free play and just start a new character and you go with a younger character as opposed to an older character who isn't established, and you pick your parents, and you get a bunch of different choices for your parents, and they have pros and cons, you know, being from different professions, different backgrounds and educations, different planets or moons in the solar system carry different stigmas and things like that. So, you know, there's some benefits to being Earthborn, for example, but there's also some negatives, because it's kind of that classic, like, Earth has expanded and the colonies are at unrest, but Earth continues to hold on to them. So it's like, if you're born from Earth, you start with a lot better chance to have good contacts, to get a trading network or something going. But whenever you head to the outer colonies, pretty much anything past Mars, people are a little bit less trustworthy of you. They're like, oh, you're an Earthborn kid. Okay, well, if you're gonna
damn Earthlings,
prove yourself, if you're gonna prove yourself, you have to complete this mission for us or pass this loyalty check. The game has got a really pretty good in-depth conversation system that can be a bit overwhelming at times. If you start out as a kid, which is what I did, you don't get a ship. You have to borrow a ship or rent a ship or do work at like the port to earn enough money to get a ship. And I had like I chose my sort of background as like the son of a trading family. So I had a bunch of contacts, and I went to the dock, and nobody would rent me a ship because I'm like the youngest unproven member of the family. And they're like, well, if you could get one of your brothers or your sisters to sign on, we'd let you borrow this ship for a while. But I was like, I don't want to go through all this effort. So I finally found someone, and I had to go through like a really long conversation dialogue with them, convincing them to let me borrow the ship. And eventually I did. I got them to let me borrow the ship. It's just a really interesting way to do it that I've never seen before. Like, there is a really in-depth, vibrant, changing economy that I don't quite know how much impact you have on, or if it's just sort of on a timer and it runs in the background. But the prices of commodities change. There are pirates and things that rove around that can be triggered. There seems to be, like I said, conflict between the colonial governments and Earth's government. So there's all of this stuff going on. But it ultimately comes down to, like, who do you know? Who can you talk to and get get the inside information on, get a man on the inside, or get that extra tip of information. And I mean, there's dozens of people at every starport that change out regularly. You can have conversations like these with people in space. So it's really interesting. Like, I'm saying lots of really nice things about it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the reviews, and it's very mixed. So.
I was going to say, I mean, I'm saying lots of nice things about it, but on the other hand, it's pretty outside of this really interesting in-depth character creation and approach to how it handles things, like having the big focus on who you know and your contacts and your connections. It's a pretty standard one of these games that's got not the best controls. If it had this feels like it would be much better suited to actually playing with a controller, because it feels like a poorly done twin stick when it comes to the combat and the space flight. And then you can maybe just use the mouse to interact with the menus and things. I don't really know how much more I want to play it. I've played it for a couple hours this week, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting, and the conversation dialogue is pretty cool, and it seems like there's a neat backstory going on here. Your character ages, so I assume there's some sort of legacy mechanic where that if you want to continue on, you have to have children. Yeah, you have to have a kid. But, I mean, I haven't gotten anywhere far enough into the game to discover if that's true or not, but...
Yeah, it turns out that it becomes a different type of trading.
Oh, my. So, I don't know, if you're the sort of person that likes these games just in general, and want one that's a little bit different, Soul Trader definitely offers it with its sort of in-depth conversation system and connections building mechanic, I guess is the best way to say it. But outside of that, it's just a really standard top-down 2D space adventure type game. I mean, I've talked about a bunch of these, and basically they're all the same except for their one twist, or their one unique or different feature. And I mean, this falls into that category. Mostly the same with a neat feature that is something I haven't seen before. So, yeah. Pretty good, but I don't know.
So, mediocre game with an awesome character creator.
Yeah, pretty much. It's $20. It's definitely not worth $20. It's worth a couple of bucks for sure. If you really, really like this type of game, it's probably worth about $5 for you. But I definitely would not buy it for $20. I got it from Keymailer, so I didn't pay anything for it. And that's the best price for anything. Next on my list is Headliner. So Headliner is a really interesting but short game that I played through 3 times, and I want to play through a couple more times just to see how different the outcomes are for the game. But what Headliner is that you are a newspaper editor, like the head editor for a newspaper. And so you get to choose what all of the big stories are that your paper's going to run every day. And there's 7 days that pass, and the decisions that you make or the headlines that you run, or the articles that you run in your paper, affect different things that go throughout the game. So you're in a fictional country that is at, just sort of near-ish future. It's not really specified.
In other words, Paper Please, plus 20 years.
Yeah, at first I thought, I was like, oh, this must be made by the same developers who made Papers, Please. It's not. But it very much looks and feels like that in a lot of ways. I mean, you have the articles laid out on your desk, and you move stuff around, and you've got stamps. You've got a family at home, although you interact with your family more than in Papers, Please.
You're not just told, well, your son's dead now. Congratulations. Work harder.
Yeah. I don't want to say too much, because I don't want to spoil too much. But this is a near future setting, and sort of the big thing that's going is genetic modification. And then there's also a war going on. And you've got those 2 main threads, and then there's a lot of smaller things that you have to deal with. And based on the stories you put in your paper, there are some pretty big changes that can affect the game. I've had 3 playthroughs with 3 fairly different outcomes. The way because you interact with your family and have conversations with them, and then can perform small tasks for them throughout the
retrieving
days
bear
of the
asses?
game. Nah, well, you go pick up dinner, and you get dog food.
Consisting of bear ass. Oh,
yes.
That's definitely bear ass.
Definitely bear asses. Yeah, you're right. And I've managed to get the same family outcome twice, despite having 2 different outcomes based on my news stories and stuff. So I don't know how much those 2 connect with each other. I think that you can just get different results based on how you treat your family, and then also how you run the newspaper. But I've always, the first time I played it, I tried to be as fair and balanced as possible, not really choosing one side over the other. And that did get some different dialogue from my family than other times when I was not quite full left or full right, but I pursued sort of a buzz a little bit more to get the ratings up so that I got a promotion at work. And so that prompted some different dialogue from my family members. So it's really good. It's really interesting. And it certainly made me think a little bit outside the box about news media and organizations, which was interesting. All the stories that you can read are well written. It doesn't really, you can choose to be male or female and be married to male or female. That doesn't matter. You can do whatever. I prefer the female family. I prefer having a wife, just because the character model is better for her than for the husband. But I tried playing through as gay, lesbian, and straight, just to see if there was any difference, and it doesn't make an impact. You always have a daughter. You can't change that, but that doesn't really matter.
Well, at least not. Well, it is genetic modification, so
that is true. The game's only $3. It's definitely worth $3. I've already played through it 3 times. And I want to play through it at least 2 more times and go hard right one time and hard left one time and just see what happens with the story. But otherwise, I don't want to say anything else in case someone wants to buy it, just because I don't want to spoil the story. So I definitely think you should check. Everybody out there should check it out for like $3. And
yeah, I tossed it on my wish list. I may pick it up over Christmas.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're not sure, it'll go on sale, I'm sure, for like $1 at some point. Or this is the type of game to wind up in a bundle, I'm sure. So,
yeah, something to pad out a bundle.
Yeah.
Even though I don't want to. This is probably going to sound mean of me, but I don't think this is the quality that Humble Bundle usually puts in as padding. If that makes any sense. Yeah, they usually go for bigger indie titles.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm not saying that this game sucks. I'm just saying that usually they go for something a little bit more meaty than this for their primary bundles, unless it's something absolutely massive. Then, this would probably be in like the Jingle Jam next year or something.
Yeah. But, yep, I would definitely recommend this game. It's a lot of fun. And interesting. So next is a game that I can't really say anything about without spoiling. Doki Doki Literature Club. So at the behest of Kyle, I played this game. And just so you know, Kyle, the first time I played through, or the first bit, I went for Yuri. You guys were having conversations about that, you and Mel. So I went for Yuri. Just so you know.
As in a girl named Yuri, or as a girl love?
A girl named Yuri.
All right.
So Doki Doki Literature Club is a free-to-play visual novel dating sim with a twist.
What a twist.
With a twist. There's things that happen. So you and I had a conversation before about how I was going to talk about this, and basically you don't want it spoiled, and there's not very much I can say.
Yeah, and also I think based on just the general consistency that I've heard, even talking about the story at all kind of defeats the purpose.
It really would.
So
talking about the story,
go check out this game.
Yeah, go check out this game. Do heed. I will say that it gives you a warning. It gives you 2 warnings, actually, when you start the game. Like, there is disturbing content and imagery in this game. Do not proceed if you don't want to see it. Heed that warning. That's not bullshit. That's a legit warning. There is some stuff that happens in this game that is disturbing, and some disturbing imagery is definitely shown.
So shit goes down, yo?
Yeah, I will say that just in case you're like, oh, they just put those warnings on there because of whatever. No, they mean it. They really mean it. So, other than that, if you like visual novels, if you like dating sims, if you like things that make you think, play
I think I like things that make me think.
It's free. There's no reason to not play this game. I know it looks cutesy. Just play it.
This falls into the school live area.
Yes, it does. That's the best thing I could come up with. If you've seen School Live, think like the first episode of how wonky it gets.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen the anime School Live or School Live, depending on your how you pronounce the second word, don't read anything about it. Just go on the internet, hunt down the first episode, either legitimate or not. Watch the first episode. Beginning to credits. Do not read anything about the show. Do not even read the fucking synopsis, because that ruins it. Watch the show from beginning to end. Pay attention. And don't stop.
Yep. Also, don't look up anything about Doki Doki Literature Club. Just don't. It will ruin the whole thing. You have to have as much surprise as possible.
And even just the hype around it probably diminishing it. It's probably the same like Undertale.
Yeah. It's so difficult, though. Like, I want to recommend it, and I have to give a couple caveats because I don't want people to wind up...
Well, what's the second warning? You said 2 warnings, and you have to heed them.
Oh, no, it gives you, like, the 2 warnings right up front. Like, whenever you...
No, you only mentioned graphic imagery.
Oh, it gives you that warning twice.
All right. It's like, hey, dude, we're not fucking around here.
Yeah, like, it gives you that warning, and then it pops up again, and it's like, seriously, there's some stuff that goes on.
Yeah, we're totally going to get taken off Steam.
I hope not. And if only that was a segue to a news topic. But I still have one more game to talk about.
You should have more intelligently sorted out your games.
Nah, it's fine. The only other game that I played this week that I can talk about, because KSP is Game Club game, and you guys don't want to hear me prattle on about Factorio anymore, is Elite Dangerous. So I haven't played Elite Dangerous in about 2 years. I purchased it and played it when it first launched in 2015, early 2015. It might have been late 2014 when it came out of beta, but whatever, around that time. And I played it, and I got pretty much through as much of the content that existed back then that I could. It was basically, I was to the point where I was like, I can just keep grinding for money to get bigger ships, or I can explore a few other aspects of the game that I haven't really done. Because I originally focused mostly on combat and trading and mining. And then I sat out on this really long exploration journey and then just kind of stopped playing. And I hadn't played it for 2 years, and there's been quite a bit of content that's came out since then. They have the Horizons, what do they call it? The Horizons Season Pass? Or the Horizons...
Horizon Zero Dawn, and does it get any awards?
It's four massive updates that added tons of content to the game. It added a politics system. It's called Power Play. So a lot of the leaders from the galaxy that you had heard about from before and that were in the news article, or like the news in game called Galnet, it now actually made that meaningful. And there's a constant sort of galaxy war going on between all these factions. It's not necessarily like open war all the time, but so
it's not total war.
It's not total war, but it's for faction power basically. And sometimes war does break out, but a lot of times it has to do with trade and intel and stuff like that. It's a pretty interesting in-depth system that I'm only really starting to scratch the surface on, because I was chatting with you the other night when I finally had done basically enough of the bitch missions to earn a rank and start getting some better stuff into it. Another one of the updates that they added planet landing and exploration. So originally you could only just fly around in space, and when you got close enough to a planet, it would drop you out of your warp. And if you kept trying to go forward, eventually you would just stop, and it wouldn't let you go any closer to a planet. But now you can fly down and explore most planets. Like, you can't fly down to a gas giant or something like that, but pretty much any planet
that's that attitude.
Pretty much any planet that's got a solid surface you can fly down to.
Or should I say altitude? Sorry.
Yes. That was nice. But anyways, you can fly down to these planets and explore them, and you have basically a space four-wheeler. It's called an SRV, which stands for Surface Reconnaissance Vehicle. But
so Mako.
It's just a fancy... Yeah, it's like a small version of the Mako. And it's got a gun on top and some kind of scanner module, and it's got boosters so that you can basically hop a little bit if you get stuck or something. And it added a whole set of planetary missions and colony settlements and things like that you can explore. New resources to gather. I'm not 100% sure where the new resources came in, but there are now resources you can collect for more than just trade purposes. They can be used to upgrade your ship or craft equipment and modules for yourself that you can use, or things like ammo and fuel in case you get stuck or something. If you've got crafting materials, you can basically make some gas out there in space, keep yourself going. You can get bonuses from them too. Then there was an update added that put in engineers, which are special characters that can give you... They send you on special missions, and you can upgrade your ships beyond, like, even more. So you can completely customize your ships. Well, not completely customize. You know, there are certain classes of weapons and things like that, and certain ships can't mount certain weapons or whatever. But within whatever your ship can use, you can completely customize it to how you want to. Weapons, different or better shielding, engines, cargo spaces, etc., etc. So the engineers allow you to further customize your vehicles and basically just allow you to put more powerful modules on them, essentially, so that you can get higher bonuses than what you could from just even going with top level equipment. And then there was one more update. I think it's the newest update, which I am definitely not participating in. The original Elite Dangerous. I mean, this is just a continuation of that series. It's not a special. It's not a spiritual successor. It's just the next game in the line of the Elite franchise. But the Elite that came out in the 80s and 90s had this alien race in it called the Thargoids.
Gesundheit.
And they had been saying for a long time that, well, initially they were like, yeah, we don't know if the Thargoids are going to be here or not. Remember, you killed them in one of the previous games.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Oh, wait, no.
And everyone was like, oh, yeah, right. And then someone found their planet at some point, and then there started being, like, with the planet landing, and they were, like, mysterious signals you could find. And the most recent update that's just came out in the last month, the Thargoids are back, and apparently
and they're pissed.
Are killing people left and right. So that's I'm avoiding that for now. I'm way behind the curve. Like, when I quit playing, I had not the best gear, but you know, I was in the top tier of everything. But they've added quite a few new ships and new weapons, and with the new customization options and upgrades, it's just like, well, I'm behind again.
Well,
so,
Jared, if your Thargoids are flaring up, there's an ointment for that.
I'll have to go back to the doctor.
Yeah, but your insurance isn't going to pay for that.
Probably not. They've added other stuff too. You can now have fighters. Certain ships can mount hangar bays for fighter craft. That's really interesting. You can have crew now. You can have I think you can have player crew in your ship, so you can have multi-crew ships, and you know, someone's flying the main ship and someone hops in the fighter and goes and does stuff. And if you're on a planet, somebody can hop into the SRV, I think. But I've only played with Ghost Shark since I got back into it, and we basically, like, he showed me how the SRVs worked and the planet exploring, and then we blew up pirates for a while.
Yeah, I have a feeling if I had any interest in playing this, I would be so far behind the curve. It would be just a slog. Well,
the whole game is a pretty big slog anyways. I mean, this is basically...
it's Euro Truck Sim in space.
Yeah, I mean, this is a, you know, it's Arcadian, it's fairly Arcadian style. Like, it walks the line between simulator and arcade. But in terms of, like, what you can do, it's not like, you know, it's just a big sandbox. And a lot of the stuff that they've added has made it easier to find, I guess, meaning or things to do besides just tool around and grind for the next ship. Because when I started playing, that's all there was. Just grind for the next ship. Explore the cool thing, grind for the next ship. But now with Power Play and the Thargoids and continuing Mission Alliance, which feels sort of like quests, and having like regional stuff, like personalities that are governing, you know, the different areas of space and stuff, it's made it a lot more, you know, I mean, you've got to buy into it. You've got to be into this sort of thing, which I am. I mean, I'm the biggest, I think, sci-fi person around in this show. I don't know. There's a couple.
Well, maybe you should go and diet.
There's a few of our friends that I'm sure give us a run for my money. Give me a run for my money. But, you know, I mean, I buy into it, so I really like it. By the way, I play for Federation, the Federation out there. Anyone who cares. If you're on the Empire, fuck you. And if you're in the Alliance, we're cool, bro. Just don't come into my territory anymore. All right?
So,
just had to get that out of the way.
Picard, Cisco. You're not Janeway, are you?
I did like Janeway. I think I was the only one who did.
Well, to be fair, there are several versions of her personality that you could choose from. That's true.
But anyways, I mean, the game is gorgeous. I wouldn't touch it if you didn't have at least a joystick or a flight stick. I wish I had a HOTAS, but I don't. So I kind of use the keyboard.
Yeah,
for my
Katie
throttle.
would be really pissed with you then.
I think if, depending on how Christmas goes and the new year and how things play out with my clinic setup, I think HOTAS is going to be up there. Because the thing is that my life has changed so much since I played this last time. I like having a game that's a constant that I can go to now to play. And it, you know, I've had various games for that at various points in my life. But this year, really, I have just found comfort in playing a game for long periods of time. So I think Elite might be that. I've got a head start on all the content, the new content, because I played before. I had, I think, more money and ships than Ghost Shark, despite the fact that he's played more and more recently than me. So, I've got a jump start on all that content. So basically, I'm just getting into the new systems and learning them. And there's quite a bit to learn. I mean, there's a lot of little stuff that I haven't even mentioned. Like there's, you can do transport missions for people now. And there's different types of those, like sightseeing. You can basically be like a party barge and just go to places for rich people, or you can transport like refugees or soldiers or stuff like that. They've added a couple of different ship classes, much larger ships that to like frigates and corvettes that you can get, which have obviously a lot more power. It can do lots of different things, but they require a lot of faction rank to get them. I think you have to be a rear admiral to get the Federal Corvette.
And we know how you are with it being a rear admiral.
Yeah, I'm just an ensign right now. I got a long way to go. I can get the Federal gunship, which I think I'm going to do. I don't know how much money it costs. I haven't went down to the station where it is to look for it. But,
I just had a thought. This game with the Steel Battalion controller.
That would be really good, actually. That would be fun. I mean, that's kind of like what a HOTAS would be. Do you know what a HOTAS is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Essentially throttle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hands on throttle and stick. You've got a flight stick and a throttle, and usually both of them have a lot of buttons on them. So I want one of those. But anyways, there's a completely new mission system. There's a bunch of new mission types. The mining system is much improved from what it was when I played before.
Yeah, basically this is going to be your Warframe.
I think so. I think this is going to be my Warframe. I like how they do their DLC, microtransactions, whatever you want to call them. There's no loot boxes. Everything is 100% cosmetic. Ship skins and little funny stuff. Like you can get bobbleheads for your dashboard, and it's Christmas, so you can buy Christmas lights if you want to put on your ships. And stuff
exactly
like
Warframe then.
Yeah, it's exactly like Warframe. There's also now commander customizations, because why not? I mean, you're never out of a seat. Like, you're never out of the pilot seat of something, but you can completely customize your character with clothes and glasses and baubles. My guy has pink hair.
I was about to say, what, are you going to have a pink mohawk?
I have pink hair with a black beard, a pink mustache, and dark red lipstick. It's my guy. His portrait looks like, when you look at him, he actually looks really bad, but you never see him. You only see the portrait. So the pose that he strikes in the portrait makes him look like a sassy rebel. It's great. I like it. But yeah, Elite Dangerous is a lot of fun. It's gorgeous. It runs really well. I haven't mentioned, I don't think, that I've got my 144 hertz monitor now. And playing Elite Dangerous at 144 hertz versus playing it at 60 hertz is like two different games. But honestly, playing just about anything at 144 or 120 hertz is like playing a different game compared to 60 hertz.
So you're saying once you go back to 60, it hurts?
Haha. Yes, it does. It's weird. Even like...
Now here's the real question. Going back to play a console game.
Ooh, that's interesting. Because when I played Halo 5, I hadn't gotten my monitor yet, so I should do that before my Xbox whatever subscription that I paid $1 for runs out. I think it runs out on the 14th.
Well, there's your assignment for next week.
But even like browsing web pages and stuff, just like scrolling or moving my mouse around at 144 hertz is crazy compared to like whenever I get my laptop, because it's only got a 60 hertz display. And it's like, whoa, I used to think that this was awesome. Listen to me being all smug about my 144 hertz monitor. Oh,
easy there, TB.
A lot of games I find a compromise on, because I've got a pretty good rig, but it was built around 1080p 60 gaming. So I have to turn down graphics settings to get higher than 60 or 70 FPS for most games, which I'm fine with, but there is a good balance to be struck. But some games, like, I mean, Elite Dangerous is either super well optimized or something, because it runs at ultra settings at 1080.
Probably not really heavy on the CPU.
Yeah,
that's usually the bottleneck, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it does between 100 and 144. There's certain instances I get into, I'll see that my FPS counter dropped like 100, and then it'll pop right back up to 144. It's usually during a transition, like coming out of warp or something. But, yep. I could do 120, but I'm never going to be able to have a monitor that's less than 120 hertz for the rest of my life. It's crazy how much of a difference it makes.
Well,
like, I mean, I'm not.
Well, I guess you could just throw away your consoles now, because they typically target 30 FPS and try to make the games all shiny.
Yeah.
Or unless it's PUBG, then they try for 30 and get more like 15.
Yeah. Which I don't think that was on our news docket, was it?
No,
you mentioned it.
No, it's not. I found it hilarious as I was going through the news about it's not running well on consoles. It doesn't run well on PC.
Yeah,
unless you either have a beast of a machine or you have the magic setup,
or all of the stars align and the gods of frame rate smile down upon you.
And you made a small animal sacrifice. You have to kill the chicken before you can try for the chicken dinner.
All right. Well, that's all the games that I played this week. And since we've been doing this at this point for nearly 2 hours, since we started recording, I need to take a break. All right. After a short break and a definitely good Franken content bit to cut out, we will move on to our first news topic. In this case, pair of news topics from the day, but we've combined them into one topic. Valve removes adult games from Steam. There were 2 games with more adult themes, shall we say, that Steam... One of them was removed, and the other one said they weren't going to put it on, right?
I believe both of them were removed, actually. I'd have to go double check that, actually. Because, there's some scuttlebutt going on with the second one. I haven't been able to find confirmation on anything yet, and it's sort of late breaking.
Yeah, you found it just before we started.
It said it was banned from Steam, so I imagine that it wasn't on yet, but it's an odd thing going on with Steam just in general, where they seem to be really cracking down on more adult oriented gaming, especially on the indie side of things, and doubly especially on the visual novel side of things. Granted, not sure if this one well, let's give the names of the games. It is The Key to Enter Your Home, The Key to Your Home,
the Key to Home,
which has also a Japanese subtitle to it. At least I'm assuming that's Japanese with the kanji there. And the other one is You Must Be 18 or Older to Enter. So, we pretty much already see where it's going with the second one. But the first one was removed from Steam because Steam thinks that its primary audience is a bunch of pedophiles. At least according to the developer.
Yeah. So this first game...
Yeah, let's go with the first one first.
Key to Enter Your Home. And I typed that Japanese, whatever it's called, into Google Translate.
The Key to Home.
And it says no key, isn't there that?
Okay.
So the Key to Home, no... I don't know. Doesn't really matter. That game, The Key to Home, the cached version of the Steam page, the description for this game is this person's name, Hiroshi Kurinaga, is a boorish failure of an elementary school teacher, is being blackmailed by a student, Rika Sakuma, a girl with demonic intelligence, into a wild scheme to rob the school of hidden fortune worth tens of millions of yen. Lies, cheating, and betrayal, students and teachers struggle against one another for dominance in this suspenseful thriller. Who will come out on top to claim the school's hidden fortune? This is a visual mystery novel for all gentlemen and gentlewomen who love little girls.
And I think it's that little girl part that really kind of set off some red flags. That and some of the, I guess, the angles on some of this art. Yeah, rather low cut, very showing off of little girls.
Yeah, the image for this, I mean, it's some kind of like necklace thing that this girl has in her mouth, but the way it's framed makes it look like she's sucking on a penis or something. And if you're, very clearly an adult, no problem. But, I mean, these are little girls. Like, the girl in the picture, according to this, is 9.
Yeah.
So, she's a 4th grade girl that they've got possibly suggestively, showing her doing something a little seductive looking. And these devs are Japanese, right?
I believe so.
So,
I mean, just going off the name, and also this was cast on, I believe, the Japanese version of Steam. So, just looking at the page itself, it has a lot of Japanese text on it. Even more so than you would expect with the subtitle and everything.
Right. And in Japanese culture, maybe what they're doing is not risque. But in this instance, I totally see why Steam would be like, no, we're not going to put this on there because we're going to be liable for this. And it could be innocent, and these could just be a bunch of sassy, 4th and 5th graders. I've known a few sassy 4th and 5th graders. I've worked with a few of them in counseling. But you have to be careful how you depict children in any medium. And if Steam, I mean, I'm getting some weird vibes off of this just because of what I've been shown.
Yeah, and that says something.
With... I've got no context on this stuff, and it's throwing off some weird vibes. And,
and there's also the stigma just in general with visual novels already. Yeah, a certain segment of gamers view visual novels themselves as porn games. Granted, there are more than a few porn games that are visual novels, but that doesn't mean all visual novels are porn games.
Yeah, there's plenty of visual novels that don't have any nudity or suggestive or provocative content at all. And then there's lots of them that have it, but it's just in there. It's not the focus of the game. So,
I mean, we played one on Game Club.
Yeah. And I've played many outside of Game Club. But, Steam pulled this game, and the developers posted, what was it, on the Steam community forums?
Yeah.
About it. And
this is one of the developers.
Their side what happened.
Yeah, which it's a really strange thing that Valve is policing such hardcore on this without even talking to the developers, because it seems like they hit them completely out of nowhere. At least that's the vibe I'm getting from this, really.
Yeah, it seemed like Valve contacted them. Or they say that Valve contacted them and asked for context on the game, basically. Yeah. And they provided that context, and Valve decided to remove the game from there. So, I mean, I don't... Number one, Valve has the right to remove any game from their service for any reason whatsoever.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we have to support them in it, right?
Right, that is true. And as much as that, sucks a lot of times, I do wish that Valve did more curation, and this is one game where I'm going, well, maybe
I would want to see more on what's
totally
going on, because the store page doesn't... It's very mysterious on what this game is by design, because this is a mystery game.
But I totally see why Steam would want to remove this, or why Valve would want to remove this. And as someone who works in an industry where liability is a huge deal, I get that. And I'm not going to say anything bad about this. Unless we find out later that, there was literally nothing wrong with this game. Just some weird imagery that probably is fine in Japan and just is less accepted by Western culture. But, I doubt Valve will say anything about it. Yeah,
based on this, on the message, which granted, this is coming from a developer, so, he could be, lying or, just trying to spin the image back in his way. He's talking about how this has already been approved in Japanese markets as an all ages title, and it goes against the message that was being in the game in the first place. That the provocative art is there as kind of getting attention, but it's not the message of the game, and that there's no sexual acts at all in the game. So I think this may be a case of Valve wanting to protect themselves and possibly getting rid of a game without really playing it or figuring out what's going on. And granted, I understand that there's countless games on Steam, and hundreds a week now, because Steam Direct has just squirted diarrhea all over the Steam store. There's an image for you, right? Not
okay without that image.
Yeah, but not incorrect. But there is no way that Valve could test every game and figure out what is appropriate or not, and have to go off of reports. But this is also something that I think they should have sent if not a demo, send more context, not just have one back and forth and that's it, if that's what this is. It feels weird to, with how this game is portrayed, though. And I think that may be just coming off of a Japanese developer not understanding Western culture.
Yeah. I'd love to see Valve take some other games off of Steam, though.
What about there's at least 2 PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds VR games, or VR ripoff games, coming out in the next week. And there's been like a dozen different versions of it already. And I'm not just talking, Battle Royale in general. I'm talking about literally the logo only slightly tweaked, or, the same font used different, or PlayerUnknown written slightly differently.
Known players, unknown battleground.
Yeah. So, they won't police that and make the store look like it's the fucking Google Play Store with all the ripoffs. But they won't have a dialogue here to figure out what's going on. Assuming, once again, I am siding a little bit more on the developer because I don't know the context here. And I've never played this game. So it's tough for me to really say, that, yes, this is definitely a pedophile game. And there's this knee-jerk reaction that's been on the internet just in general. Especially with YouTube causing an adpocalypse, because there's been some suggestive things with children, and all the advertisers have been pulling out of different ads, and YouTube has been trying to go crazy on that front. Maybe Valve is looking at that and thinking, oh shit, we need to act now.
Yeah, maybe. I'm siding more with Valve on this one, actually. And like I said,
I just wish I knew more context of what's going on exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had more context as well. But I'm just approaching it strictly from a liability aspect.
Yeah, see,
just I'm
working
looking
at
in
it
a
as
field
more of a
that...
gamer aspect. I don't have that background.
But basically, both of us want more context, and I don't know if we'll get it. The developer might say some more stuff, but
I imagine
this. I hear something from Valve too.
Yeah, I imagine this is going to be released on another platform if it hasn't already. And this is just, trying to get on a bigger platform, because Valve or Steam is still, the major player. But I would say it's it's that last line in the synopsis and a couple of these lower key shots, hers looks like stomping on something, and the upskirt shot. Even though, it's blacked out. It's the shadow. But the big image where you get to get a panty shot. I went to the Japanese store that he linked to see more images. So, I definitely understand where this is coming from. I think this could have been localized a little bit better. It's just it's such a strange thing. And then mix on to that this other game that's been pulled. Or been banned. You must be 18 or older to enter, which is a sort of parody of, a parody / throwback of looking at porn in the 90s, trying to sneak on the family computer. and using that as a visual novel kind of joke thing, it seems.
Yeah.
And supposedly it got thrown off. Well, we don't know exactly why it got thrown off, but supposedly there's an erect penis in it. Oh, no.
Oh, no. An ASCII porn.
Yeah, I mean, it's all ASCII. I mean, it's not even real pictures. It's dots. It's
the best dots.
High quality dots. It's such a strange thing to be policing this, you know?
Yeah. This you must be 18 or older to enter looks really silly.
Yeah, it looks silly. I could understand Valve being worried about a family-friendly image. And this probably comes back to the whole liability thing once again. Because, if a child gets a hold of this, oh no. They may see a penis.
I'm looking for something more than just the trailer that's in the Tech Raptor article.
Well, if you go to the Rock, Paper, Shotgun, it shows a couple images, and it doesn't show a lot. But, Honey Pop is a hell of a lot more explicit.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so I'm on their itch.io page. Okay, so it looks like it's this weird, like, horror jump scare game, but instead of a monster, it's like your mom.
Yeah, coming up behind you. It's
in.
like, what are you doing?
None of these images are very pornographic. That's very clearly like people wearing underwear and bras, people kissing.
Well, I just jumped to go to like 350 on the gameplay. You could see probably the most explicit stuff.
I think that's supposed to be a penis. 350?
Yeah, 350-ish. There's a... it's tough to really make out.
I think that's a dude masturbating.
Well, you just got sold in the game, right?
But it's hard to tell.
I mean, if someone wants to get off to this, they are putting in a lot more effort.
I think that's supposed to be doggy style. It's really hard to tell.
Yeah, because it's all ASCII stuff. Or not quite ASCII, but, it's made of dots, and it's made to be a low resolution sort of image in black and white.
Yeah.
So I would almost call it sort of a monochrome pixel art in a way, because it's all built around essentially punctuation periods and that sort of thing, just with different scales of gray.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I can figure out what happens like if you get caught by your mom.
You get grounded. I have no idea if that's true or not. It's just I understand probably why Valve wants this off, since they have such a hard stance on pornographic games. I mean, how they've made it really tough for developers to have decensor patches now. But at the same time, it's they're policing this, but they are perfectly all right with violence. It's just such a strange thing, and just in general, really. I'm not talking about just this one game, but just the way nudity is treated in video games, the way sex is treated in video games.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking more about more adult themes later in another segment, and how that's viewed in video games. It's just, there's this disconnect with how video games portray something, but they still treat it as a toy, but then tell gamers to grow up as a medium. It's such a weird disconnect.
Yeah. Still looking. I'm on YouTube now trying to see if I can find what happens if
you're looking for the penis. Let's be perfectly honest.
I already saw the penis.
I mean, I could think of games that are a hell of a lot more explicit than this. Hell, Rust is a lot more explicit than this. Conan Exiles is a hell of a lot more explicit than this. The only thing that's different... No. I just had a thought. if they ban this, what's going to happen to Gary's mod?
There's a lot of stuff in game. Oh, it's just a text scroll on the right side of the screen. You jump in your seat. Oh, crud. You have to do something. What's this? Somebody's going to hear it. Your heart is pounding. And then, like, the options start flashing in colors. And if you pick one, it's like, ooh, that was a close call. And if you don't pick one, you get caught. And that's it. All right.
Basically,
Cool.
this is a big hubbub over really nothing, but it's more discussing Valve, being thrown in with the other game also, but Valve policing some things, but then, just letting other things just go absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But this is also what you get when you open up the doors. It's such a weird thing, isn't it?
Yep.
Are we done here?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm
I'm
done. I was just like finishing, like scrolling through a couple more YouTube videos.
I'm sorry. I'm just taking this all out of context and putting it in a different context.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm done.
No, I don't. Yep, I'm done. All right. Next on our topic list, then. Loot boxes, legislation, and video game business models. So we've got another mashup of a few things.
Yeah.
Few topics.
Mostly, I would say, surrounding the beginnings of legislation in the U.S. around loot boxes. And also an interesting article from the UK talking about loot boxes, or in-game gambling just in general with kids. Should we start with that one? How they're finding 10% of children are using this now. Or gambling on in-game items is the title. It's a very scary number when you think about it. 10%.
Yep, 10% of kids.
Between, is this ages? Yeah, between ages 11 to 16.
Mm-hmm.
With 45% of 11 to 16-year-olds being aware of skin betting, and knowledge of gambling practice skewed more in the male direction, with 59% of boys being familiar with it compared to 31% of girls. Granted, this doesn't say they're participating, but just being aware of it.
Yeah, well, below that it says 11% acknowledge that they have played gambling-themed games on their smartphone or tablet. Which would be, I assume, just more like traditional
loot box,
quotes, traditional gambling stuff, like slots or Texas Hold'em or something like that.
Yeah. I think as this entire thing unfolds and EA's Pandora's box just spews out more stuff, and the government starts taking governments in general, I guess I should say, are taking a closer look at this, I think they're going to realize just how crazy things have gotten with both loot boxes and just all the microtransaction gambling themes in general. But loot boxes, I'd say, is probably the forefront of this, really. Where things are absolutely insane. And, you've talked about how the kids you've counseled in the past have dropped tons of money and really thought nothing of it.
Yeah, kids would spend their entire allowance every week on loot boxes and Call of Duty and just wait for the next week and spend more money on it. Probably, I mean, I had one, they were two brothers that I was working with, and they both liked to play Call of Duty and other games. Both of them spent all of their allowance, which was like $25 a week for both kids. So these kids were spending $50 a week on loot boxes in Call of Duty. And I worked with them for 9 weeks. Just changes in caseload and stuff. They were transferred to someone else. So in that 9 weeks, that's $450 that these two kids spent on.
Damn. Just think what you would be able to do on, not even just Steam, but hell, just used games in general, in like GameStop or something. $50 a week between the two brothers.
Yep.
I mean, that's a hell of a lot of games. And that's not even counting, going, smarter playing, going with Steam, going with sales, that sort of thing. but they're just caught up in Call of Duty and in the loot box scheme, and they have that addiction almost.
Yeah, I remember being a kid buying video games, and I would have an allowance but I would spend probably $50 or $60 a month on video games, and I would go to GameStop and I would buy used games and stuff like that. And I had GameFly for a while. I mean, I was getting 3, 4, 5 games a month, especially when I was really big on getting my gamer score up on Xbox Live. I was going through tons of games, but I was getting games for that kind of money instead of just packs of shit.
Hell, right now my wallet in Steam has about $30 in it. With the Christmas sale coming up, I could probably get a dozen games with that of either decent or really good quality. Or, I could just spend it on loot boxes. It blows my mind to spend it all on essentially cosmetic stuff.
Yeah. And you mentioned addiction a minute ago, and addiction possibly, but I think normalization is the more appropriate term for a lot of these kids, just because they're at one of the most impressionable periods of their lives, and it just is normal for them to spend that kind of money on this sort of thing, and so some of them, I'm sure, have the pretense to actually become gambling addicts, but normalizing behavior and creating long-lasting habits in people is that's a company's wet dream. Get them while they're young, get them spending this much money every week, and they'll keep doing it into adulthood. And when they have more money, they'll probably spend more money.
Sorry, just had flashback to George Carlin and Dogma. Get them while you're young. Oh, only if we had the tobacco company's numbers.
Yeah. But, that's
exactly what it is.
What's happening. Whether or not they've done that on purpose, that's what's happening, and that's where we're headed.
Yeah, which frightens me, and I don't... As much as I've called for government intervention, that's always been, the final resort after all the industry safeguards have failed.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have gone to this point. The ESRB, even though I realize it is an industry body and it looks out for the industry, not the consumer. That was the original purpose of the ESRB, was the industry protection first. It should have stepped in long ago.
Yep. But it didn't. And then it should have stepped in recently. So now we've hit the point where that people are saying, it's really bad when you're going, I want you, government, to get involved because everyone who's supposed to be doing something is sitting on their hands, and we see this being a problem.
This is going to be a major problem in coming years if it doesn't change. All of EA's major titles this fall, and upcoming with the UFC thing going on, has had a major focus on loot boxes. Battlefront had it, Need for Speed had it, to the point where it was a fucking slot machine. And if you wanted to avoid the slot machine, one of the reviewers I really trust on YouTube was talking about how he had to sit around in the parking lot of the shops and wait for the shops to cycle their goods every 10 minutes to slowly build up his car, because that's the only way that the cars are built up, is by incremental upgrades on the car, or you just spin the wheel of the slot machine. And when a major focus of the review is on that, well, that's not exactly need for speed, that's need for parking. And then the whole thing with the UFC and that beta, where literally every single move, from the biggest combos in the game to the normal punches, have a tiered, essentially star card for... Yeah, since Battlefront is the big thing about this, star cards to level up, where if a guy gets lucky on a draw and his basic punch is higher level, he hits harder than you. Created this is in sports games, and sports games have already normalized this, which is really scary when it's spilling over into more core games, I guess would be the proper term for it. Yeah, because it's already been normalized in FIFA, and the FIFA players are starting to see that it's not the normal thing in gaming as a general, gaming in general, and there's this sort of natural division between sports games and, I hate using the term normal games or core games because it kind of makes it sports games seem less important, but it's a more isolated culture between the two.
Yeah,
and that barriers with Battlefront 2 has kind of come down because Battlefront 2 is pretty much the same idea as FIFA Ultimate Team, where you have this loot box system to generate your progression. And that's the same thing from everything I'm told, because I'm not a soccer guy. Oh, sorry, football.
Football.
I'm not a soccer guy, so I don't follow FIFA. I never played a FIFA game. So, this is all anecdotal stuff. All secondhand knowledge.
I've played FIFA. Katie, that's one of the only video games that Katie likes because she played soccer in high school and college. But because she's bad at video games, I win every match.
And I bet she loves that.
Nope, she doesn't.
I was being sarcastic.
She's like, why do you always win? I play soccer. I was like, yes, but I play video games. This is not soccer. This is video games.
I'll get soccer for the Kinect.
Yeah, I mean, if we went out in the yard and tried to play soccer, even though she hasn't played in a number of years, she'd still kick my ass.
Wow, you're having a heart attack on the sidelines?
Yeah.
Call ambulance.
Is it halftime yet? Oh. But.
Yeah, there's just been this normalization in the sports area, and it's, Battlefront is, well, I called it the Pandora's box, and that's really what it is. It's Pandora's loot box.
Hey-o.
Oh, it's just such a scary thing, and it keeps on giving and giving and giving to the point where U.S. lawmakers are wanting to restrict games that have these gambling mechanics in them, the loot boxes and some other mechanics, because this is going to spill over beyond just loot boxes, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I'd say microtransactions will come under scrutiny as well. DLC and expansions will probably get out unscathed.
Yeah, I think expansions are perfectly fine. DLC in general, it's going to depend on what happens with it. But lawmakers want to put a hard cap, like it's tobacco or gambling in general, and put it, if you're under 21, you cannot buy this.
Yep. And
that's going to scare off a lot of big publishers from this system if that goes into place.
Because, I mean, I don't know what the biggest gaming population is, because you see different studies going around saying, oh, it's middle-aged whatever, and oh, it's older people, and oh, it's younger people.
I think it really depends on both game and genre.
I agree, but regardless, kids and teenagers, people under 21 are still a huge chunk of the market. So...
And, well, they're also the captive audience, because children crave repetition. They have this rut that they go into, and they'll play the same game over and over and over and over and over again. And if they're able to monetize that repetition through loot boxes and microtransactions and DLC, that's extra money in the pocket. And we've heard the term time and time again, money on the table. They view people sticking with the game but not buying DLC as leaving money on the table. So they want to try to make it as enticing as possible. So I completely understand why they're trying to push, this, loot box system into progression, because if it's purely cosmetic, someone like me who, maybe will get a cosmetic thing once in a while will be, I got the shiny hat that I like, and I'm good. I don't need that anymore. I'll just do my normal progression.
Yeah. I also don't usually care for cosmetics. If I get something, I'm like, oh, that's nice. But I usually don't want to spend money on cosmetics.
Yeah, that's kind of how I liked Battlerite, is that they give you a lot of cosmetics really quickly, actually. Poses, mounts, that sort of thing. But you also have the ability to buy them with in-game currency.
Yeah. What was the third part of this?
Warframe. Because
Warframe.
Yeah, there was an article talking about how Warframe handles their monetization and how it's essentially loot box free. I mean, they do have the login thing that occasionally will, that gives a random thing, but that's login bonus, which is a different system. Even though, the login bonus in Warframe is essentially a role of a loot box. And this is partly, yes, I am going to rag on Warframe a little bit, but it also ties into how loot boxes work, and partly why regulation on them is going to be so important is that there's such a thing as changing the odds, where if you have bad rolls for long enough, or if there are numbers behind the scene, see that, okay, you're less likely to buy now because it's been too long. It pushes the odds up. And Warframe does the same thing with the login bonus, but that is really the closest analogy that you get to the loot box system in general. Warframe's monetization is based mostly around cosmetics or rushing progression. But Warframe is also in a unique position where it is a PvE game. And most of the currency that's traded is the premium currency. And you're able to really fund your entire play, if you wish, through trading. And that makes it, pretty unique, actually, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think Warframe probably has one of the best free-to-play monetization methods. I also like how that the wargaming devs that do warships and World of Tanks and World of Warplanes do theirs, because they have you have individual currencies for the games, like the non-premium currency is separate for each game, but you have one premium currency that is shared across all games, and their loot boxes are for rewards, just for playing, and the rest of the content is that you can buy is actual stuff, like cosmetics, premium warships, things like that. Although I don't like the idea of premium content that you can't get at all unless you spend money, because, but you still have to get the premium currency in Warframe, though, in order to trade things, right?
No, you're able to do it with the in-game credits, which the credits is essentially a limiter to be able to prevent just mass trading, to be perfectly honest, because there's a trading tax that's in the credits. But the platinum's pretty much what's used for everything.
Okay. So it's like just a way to pull money out of the economy like other MMOs do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the credits are pretty much a governor on the in-game progression through crafting or just trading. But overall, it's pretty much the premium currency is what's used for cosmetics and for trading, that sort of thing. And there's no way to trade credits directly.
Yeah. So that's probably, honestly, one of the reasons that Warframe has lasted so long, is they have a good business model.
Well, that, and also, they push content.
Yeah, they have a good game that pushes regular content updates and improvements and they have a really good, fair business model. You could probably stand on 2 of those things.
Yeah.
But if they only had one of them, the game wouldn't survive. Although it's difficult to say, because there have been games that are really good with shitty business models that have fallen apart, like Battlefront. I mean, Battlefront sold a gajillion copies because it's Star Wars, but I've heard nothing but complaints since they pulled out all of the microtransactions and loot boxes and stuff, because with the game being designed completely around that terrible business model, it's just an awful grind fest. So, even though it's supposedly a really great game in terms of playing it, it's fallen apart because their business model was so bad.
Yeah, and this is mostly a fluff beast talking about Warframe, and we wanted to throw it in as sort of a showing that not everything is loot boxes. And granted, I did talk about the login bonus, but that's more of a bridge to anything.
Yeah.
Is there anything else here to really talk about?
I don't think so. Warframe's pretty good. If you've never played it, you should go play it, guys. We've talked about it many times over the last couple of years at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's my go-to, just kind of veg out game. It's go in and just slaughter things. And with some very satisfying combat.
Murder all aboard the murder train. And Q Rage's train.
Nope, we had that earlier. Which hopefully you'll edit out.
Yeah, I will. See, this time I just kept talking instead of stopping. I did the thing that you said that I should do several times, but I always stop anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. And I just pointed it out because I'm a professional. Anyway, let's move on to our last news topic for the week. UK MPs and campaigners call Detroit Become Human repulsive. First of all, what is an MP?
A medical practitioner. Oh, wait. Pretty much their version of Parliament, or their version of Congress, from what I could tell, if I remember correctly.
Member of Parliament, and it's just shortened to MP.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So, essentially, they're congressmen.
Yep, learn something new every day. Okay, cool. So, they're Congress and campaigners?
Yeah, basically, people crying out, outrage.
Gotcha. Are saying that Detroit Become Human is repulsive because of the most recent trailer.
Well, at least when this was released, I'm not sure there's been another trailer. Essentially, there's a child abuse scene. Well, for those who don't know, Detroit Become Human is sort of a spiritual successor to Heavy Rain. It's a story-driven, quick-time event. Interactive movie? Would that be a fair term for it?
Sort of. I've played Heavy Rain.
I mean, there are gameplay elements, but it's mostly an interactive movie, I think would be a fair thing to call it.
Yeah, it's a lot of quick time events and walking around and things like that.
And in this game, there's androids, and they're starting to gain sentience. And in the trailer, there is a child who is being abused. And you have the choice to either save the child through your various actions, or by killing her father, because you're looking at the child and figuring out she wants her father dead, or doing nothing, or not really nothing, but making the wrong choices, and the child dies. And they're calling it repulsive because child abuse should not be a form of entertainment.
And technically, on that comment, I agree. Child abuse should not be a form of entertainment. But if Detroit Become Human was a movie or a book that was exploring this same concept, nobody would say a thing.
Yeah,
they'd be like, "Oh, this is such an interesting work of art that takes this unique perspective on blah 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 blah."
Yeah, here's the actual quote. All right, It is completely wrong for domestic violence to be part of a video game, regardless of what the motivation is. Domestic violence is not a game. It simply trivializes it. I worry that people who play this themselves have suffered abuse will use this game to shape the way in which they deal with their abusers. Right. So I'm just going to ask my Android to help me. This just screams out of, well, I'm just going to use the term congressman because MP still sounds foreign to me because, well, it is.
It is.
But, yeah, this is a legislator seeing outrage of people being upset at a video game for portraying a touchy subject and, you know, writing off video games because they're video games. Right. So, how are games supposed to grow up and become a more mature medium if they can't deal with tough subjects like, oh, I don't know, domestic abuse?
Yeah.
And this isn't glorifying it.
No, it's not. I watched this trailer and I cried. But that is because I have a deeply personal connection both as a person who was abused as a child and also to many people that I have worked with who have suffered abuse as children or did currently suffer abuse. But I liked it. I've thought to myself, man, I wish that I could get this and use it for therapy with some kids, because giving children agency in that situation, giving them the ability to control how they would handle the situation, is an incredibly powerful tool that can be used to heal and allow them to move on and gain new agency in their lives. It wouldn't like fix, I'm making quotes, it wouldn't like fix the problem, but it could be a very useful tool for helping kids or even older people who suffered abuse as kids to, a lot of times they will feel guilty or bad and like, what if I had done this differently, or what if I could do this differently? And you can't go back in time, but if you can live this out, if you can play this out in different ways and have emotional reactions yourself to the potential actions that you could have taken, like that's an extremely powerful tool. And I don't think that this game was designed with that specifically in mind, but I could apply it in therapy. And it makes me really angry to just read about politicians and other people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah, this is the flip side of
up in arms about it.
Of the regulation call.
Yeah.
Because the politicians don't understand video games. They see them as toys, especially when they try to deal with more mature subject matter. And I'm going to link Boogie2988's video talking about this subject, because he also suffered abuse as a child. And yeah, it's very touching to hear him talk about how this should be in video games, how we should be able to talk about this. And that's what this is. It's a discussion. It's not glorifying. You're not beating a child yourself. I mean, can you imagine if the android was being a kid? That would be completely understandable outrage, but it's not. But it is the Daily Mail, so...
Yeah. Isn't the Daily Mail the most conservative in the UK?
I'm not 100% sure on UK politics.
Without going, like, far right-winger. They're, like, sort of on the edge. I'm not 100% sure. I've been listening to a lot more of LBC, not just Mystery Hour, and I'm learning very slowly, starting to learn about
I think
British politics.
Yeah, I think LBC is on the left side of the political spectrum.
Oh yeah, they definitely are.
Well, I haven't listened to a lot of their stuff, but you pick up little bits and pieces whenever he's talking about it on the Mystery Hour podcast. I'm glad that's gotten such mileage out of you.
Oh, it's so good. My I think I've said this on the podcast before. I know I've told you, but I got my mom listening to it. She likes it. She texted me the other day, or every time she listens, she texts me. She's like, "Hey, I just started listening to a new episode of Mystery Hour." the other day, she texted me and she's like, "I'm getting in our hot tub with a margarita and Mystery Hour."
You should tweet. She should tweet him that.
Yeah. One day I'm gonna get up early enough to actually listen and call in at but
sorry.
I mean I could call in at any point, but just because of the time difference, his 3-hour stint is done at like 8 in the morning. So I'd have to get up earlier than I usually do in order to listen live and call in. But one day I'm gonna do it.
Now I'm tempted to get something like Skype credits to do it. Because I imagine that would probably be cheaper.
I don't know. That's a good point. But, yeah, back to this subject. One day, video games can be considered a mature medium that can tackle heavy subject matter without everyone flipping their shit.
Well, unfortunately, I think it's going to take at least a generation dying.
Yep.
Because right now, the older generation, they view video games as a toy. They don't see them as an art form. They don't see it as a story medium. And unfortunately, I don't think there's any changing that. Outside of just the progress of the ages. Which, yeah, it makes me sound very cold-hearted when I say it like that, but it's the truth. I mean, people are very ingrained in their ways. They see certain things as foolish. And it's hard to really get someone to look at something with an open mind. They'll see video games as something like Mario. I mean, Mario is probably the best example, to be perfectly honest. And they don't see how, abuse or heavy subject matter could be dealt with in a Mario game. Well, outside of princess rape.
Yeah. Bowser's a single dad, though. That's a pretty big deal.
Well, he keeps trying to marry the mom, but she just don't have anything to do with it.
Oh. All right. Anything else you want to say about this, or are you ready to move on to
I
the next topic?
I think we're ready to move on to the corner.
Okie dokie. Well, yep, we are going to move on to our community corner this week, and we received an email.
Yeah,
Yay!
the poor moths, they didn't know what to do.
This email comes to us from our good old Jimmy Jam. That is Jim3535. Also, he sent in some questions, and Jim, I have your questions, but
yeah, he also sent us he tweeted us in an article, but it was pretty much an overview of what we already talked about. So,
was Jim the one who sent us the Reddit whatever? That's definitely nowhere near the title, but the long one that was the interview with the guy who figured out the loot box stuff in Battlefront 2.
Yeah, Patient Zero.
Yeah.
Or no, he would be Pandora.
But yeah, if you understood what I just said then, while I was like talking in a circle, good for you. But we are now going to go through. I will start. He says, Jim, with all the talk of loot boxes and predatory microtransactions, I feel the need to bring up what I think of as a superset of bullshit monetization models. That is, paying for in-game consumables.
Oh boy.
Paying for things that don't last forever may not seem like a strange or bad idea at first glance. After all, we consume plenty of things like food, concerts, events, TV, subscriptions, etc. that you don't get to keep forever. Even the roots of gaming had us feeding quarters into arcade machines for a limited amount of time. The incentives for companies change when you tie game mechanics directly to money. This inventively leads game mechanics changing to increase the amount of money they get. It's not a new phenomenon. This was clearly apparent to me when playing arcade games versus PC and console games in the 90s. Games employed a plethora of cheap tricks to get you to lose as quickly as possible. When you pay for a movie, you expect to be able to see the entire movie. However, with a racing game, they employ a bullshit checkpoint system to add time to a very short countdown to you losing the game. This pretty much guarantees that you wouldn't ever finish a race unless you were either exceptionally good and knew all the tricks or kept feeding money in to continue the game. Modern games still fall prey to the same incentives. A great example is Grand Theft Auto V Online, which constantly nerfed decent money-making activities in the game in order to sell more shark cards. Battlefront 2 without microtransactions revealed itself to be a horrific slog to unlock heroes and progress in the game. For Honor had a pay-to-win gear upgrade system. The examples of compromised design go on and on. But what about the rebuttals of investment banker types who have claimed that games are still a cheap form of entertainment when you calculate the cost per dollar? We've actually made this argument. Specifically, I made this argument. Compared to the cost per hour of a movie, games do come in cheaper if you play a ton of them. However, that ignores the fact that most gamers don't have a nearly limitless supply of investment income like bankers do. If games cost $7 per hour to play like movies, then you can bet most people would not spend 200 hours playing Skyrim. And then quick math, that's $1,400. What these people fail to account for is that time equals money. The cost of the game is not just what you pay for it, but also how much time you spend playing it. This means that the cost of a game increases the more you play it, even if you don't pay any more money. This means that to get good value out of a game, you need to be enjoying yourself at certain levels, or at a certain level. Excessive grindy slogs like Battlefront 2 or GTA 5 online dilute the enjoyment per cost so much that it becomes terrible to play. This isn't by accident, it's by design. They want you to give up and pay to avoid the horrible aspects of the game they built. This isn't restricted to video games either. Carnival Games mastered this practice long ago. As long as you have additional revenue tied to in-game consumables, you will have a compromised game mechanic. Regards, Jim. I do think I said that with the dollar per hour ratio that it doesn't, if you're not having fun, then there's no point. But if you are enjoying a game, like I enjoy Skyrim, so that's a really good value proposition because, paid for it and then played it a gajillion hours. And then when I wasn't having fun anymore, I stopped playing. But, I mean, there are people who do buy a game and are like, I'm going to play this game for 200 hours and get my money's worth.
Yeah.
Or this is the only game that I'm buying for however long. And then, nothing is ever free. Even if it costs you your time, that's still something that you've had to pay. And you have a finite amount of time. Because eventually, sadly, we all die. So, Jim and I have been talking a lot back and forth about microtransactions and stuff, and he hasn't quite completely changed my mind, but he's made a lot of really good points to counter things that I and we have said, like, well, if it's a free-to-play game, it doesn't matter. Like, that's the cost. But he's like, well, it does matter. And he's been making this argument a lot with me. Like, you're saying your time doesn't really cost you anything, but it does. Because, you get old and you die. And that's not all of the argument. I would probably need Jim here to go back and forth with me, because I'm sure I will have forgotten a point or say something wrong. But also, paying for in-game consumables is not something that I have thought about very much, but I do know a couple of games that do it.
Yeah,
World of Warships is one.
Well,
you can buy all of their camos for your ships, and you can buy all of the flags, but they're all consumables. So you get 100, and then when they're gone, they're gone. You have to buy more.
Well, it's a rarity in paid games, but it has popped up every so often. I believe it was Dead Space 2 that had their crafting system tied to a option to buy just the crafting parts outright. And this is a horror game, and you're able to skip a progression system and make yourself more powerful. That kind of flies in the face of the entire theme of the game, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I believe the latest Deus Ex game also did that, where there was a buy-in consumable system. But it's a rare thing because people are pissed off by it, at least in paid games.
Yeah. And
I know I avoid World of Tanks because of the gold ammo.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really glad that hasn't made it into World of Warships. I don't know if it ever will, but would you consider things like in Warframe, where you can pay and buy the little things that give you boosted XP and credits? What would you consider those to be? Would that be
that would be a consumable, but you could also get those just in the general way of playing. And I'm not talking about trading it for the currency. That's also part of the login bonus, and it pops up every so often as a guaranteed login bonus. So it's kind of, yes, it is a paid consumable, but at the same time, they also give it to you. The first taste is free.
Yeah. Jim, I have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
And you can talk to me about this outside of the show, but I think it would be good for other people to hear the conversation as well. So maybe you could write back in with an answer or I don't know, give me something to be able to say under the show. But what are some free-to-play games that you consider good and or fair and or worth it? We've poked fun at this a little bit before about how that you tend to dislike any free-to-play game we find, mostly because you hate the monetization system and you hate the grind. And that's fair. Like I said, you've been changing my mind about a lot of that stuff, and this whole Battlefront 2 thing has brought so much of this in the forefront. We've been thinking and talking about it a lot. But what are some games that you yourself, as probably the harshest sort of critic that I know for this sort of stuff, just what are some good free-to-play games that you consider fair and fun? Send it in next week, or you can talk to me about it and just give me something that I can report. But I just love to hear. I'd love to know. I think we've kind of briefly talked about this once, but I don't remember the conversation. Yeah. Thanks. Also, thanks for the letter, Jim.
And well, he also did tweet us. Hang on, let me find it on here. This trend shows how microtransactions are increasingly ruining games. It's just too profitable to compete to compromise game design, so you can charge money to fix it. And he linked the article talking basically the overview of the entire loot box clusterfuck with the interview as well. If I remember it, I'll put it in the show notes, but it's at theringer.com, so you should be able to find it there. It's Reddit fighting microtransaction exploitation in video games. So, easy enough to find if need be. But if you wish to send us in a letter like Jimmy Jam did, or should it be Jam Jimmy, since I have to be contrarian to you?
It can be whatever.
You can send it to vglpodcast@gmail.com, or just tweet us, like Jim also did, VGL Podcast on the Twitter.
Jim's birthday was pretty recent, too. He told me about it. Because he's now 36. Because he told me that he's like, oh, my birthday, something, what was it he said? My birthday means that I'm no longer Jim 35. I'm now Jim 36, or something like that.
Oh, so he leveled up.
Yeah, you leveled up, Jim. You did it.
Yeah, but of course, if we use the term from, what was it, NCIS or CSI, what are the crappy daytime from a real crime things on TV now? Leveling up means something completely different now. Or did you ever see that terrible episode that they did on Gamergate?
I don't think I did.
Let's just put it this way. It was cringy as hell. Oh.
All right. Which one was it? Which show?
It was the one with Ice Cube.
Oh, that was Law and Order SVU.
See why I was getting the letters confused? Because I don't watch them to begin with.
I mean, I don't watch them anymore, but I used to.
I mean, he was talking about, oh yeah, I heard about that. It's better than Civilization 5 with the the Beyond, whatever the expansion is, and I'm blanking on it now. It's just, it's basically dialogue, insert random game dialogue. Oh.
Alrighty then. Did we have any more tweets or anything?
No, that was it.
Okay. Would you like to tell the good ladies and gentlemen what
we're hitting the music
email address is?
Oh, I already did the email.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember the email. The 1 week.
Well, I forgot it.
It's bglpodcast@gmail.com.
Oh, thank you. Now I remember.
Ding.
You see what I did there? You see? Anyways, what was that you were saying about something?
We're actually hitting the music because we actually get the discovery queue this time around.
That is right.
Yeah, and boy, my queue is weird. I hit something immediately less just what the fuck. So I'm just going to send this to you because we need a little bit of what the fuck after about a month of not having it. Getting Over It with Benedict Fodley. This is, I don't know, a guy in a pot pushing himself with a sledgehammer.
All right, let me.
And it's a naked guy in a pot. Some sort of physics puzzle, physics platformer, I guess would be the best way to call it. Even though
a game I made for a certain kind of person to hurt them.
Well,
this looks terrible. This looks so stupid. That guy looks kind of like Vladimir Putin.
Well, it explains why he's topless.
An homage to Jazuo 2002 Sexy Hiking.
Right. Like I said, it's weird. I've learned to put it on because why the hell not? Anyway, let's go to something actually decent.
There's 2,500 people playing this game right now.
There is?
What the hell? That's what it says, 2,500.
Well, I'm using Firefox right now, so I don't have my add-on for that.
Yeah, 2,500 people are playing this game right now. Today's peak was 3,100. According to this, it's got between 172 and 200,000 owners.
Sheesh. Oh, wait. This was in a Humble Monthly bundle. Okay. And they got the Steam keys, so. Well, weird but popular, it seems.
Indeed. So I had one. That was my first game on the list. Ylands.
Why?
This looks like a voxel-based
my next one was Ylands.
and crafting game.
Yeah,
I don't know. It looks cool.
Yeah,
I'm a sucker for these.
Yeah,
kind
that
of
was
games,
a big thing for a while. I got one.
Okay.
How about Akami HD?
Okay. Cool.
I mean, it's a HD remaster of Akami, and hey, it's on PC. I mean, is there really anything to be said about Akami at this point?
If you've never played it before, it's really beautiful and really cool.
Yeah, which I've never played it. It's going to be on my wish list.
It's really beautiful and really cool. As long as it doesn't feel too dated at this point, because it's been years since I've played it.
Yeah, I'm just a little concerned about how the port's done, because, it is an older game at this point. So, yeah. Between just how the game handles in general and port issues could be an issue if you are wanting to play Akami for the first time. Otherwise, just, I guess, fire up an emulator. It was a PS2 game, wasn't it?
I believe so.
So that dates it, but it also should be perfectly playable on an emulator. And I got another one right away.
What did you get?
Shadowhand.
Oh, I also got that one. I'll let you put it on your list.
This looks very interesting. Shadowland is a strategic RPG card game. And I've been wanting other games to take the card, both deck building, but also trading card CCG elements for quite a while. There's been a handful of them, but not many. And this looks like it is an interesting idea. It looks very RPG heavy. So it's definitely not going to be for everyone. But it may be my jam.
Indeed. Well, this next game looks like one of my jam. World of Final Fantasy.
Oh boy.
It is a Final Fantasy game with chibi-style characters. And it's Pokemon meets Final Fantasy. You're like the main characters, and you capture the chibi-style Final Fantasy characters and go about your adventures using them to battle foes and go through each of the Final Fantasy worlds and, I don't know, do cool Final Fantasy stuff. It looks like it's got stuff from everything from Final Fantasy 7 up. But
looks like it's also frame rate locked.
Yeah, looks like it's locked at 30 FPS.
Well, that's going to be a problem for you.
That's sad. That is sad. I have been wanting to play a JRPG here lately, though. When did this release? November 21st. Okay, it'll be a long time before it's cheaper. I guess I'll just have to find. Maybe it's about time to pull out The Last Remnant again. Take another stab at it.
See if it still sucks. Looks like it does.
I liked it though.
This
would be my third playthrough if I go through it again.
I was 20 hours in. I still didn't understand what the fuck was going on with the battle system.
Oh, I've beat the game twice. I'm not 100% sure I know what's going on in any context.
But anyway,
it's fun.
How about an extremely crazy Forex strategy?
All right, you have my attention.
Dominion's 5 Warriors of the Faith.
Okay.
Very graphically dated, but if this is what I think it is, it has an absolutely stupid number of units. I'm trying to find a unit count here because I'm pretty sure this is what I'm thinking it is. It's a very, very, very hardcore Forex strategy. And I'm not finding the unit count, unfortunately, but definitely dated graphically. I mean, it looks like it's from about 2002, maybe 3.
Yeah. A lot of these games look that way, though.
Yeah, that's kind of the drawback. But the fact that it's magic-based, for one, which there's not a lot of Forex strategy that has magic in it. There are some, but not a lot. So, that's one bonus right away. Let's see. Oh, over 500 battle spells, over 400 rituals. So, yeah, if you want to go absolutely nuts, over 3,000 unit types. Yes, this is the game I was thinking it was.
That's a lot.
So, if you want to go crazy with Forex strategy in a fantasy setting, then, oh boy, we got the game for you.
Yeah, that might be a little too much for me. So I got another one, Reigns, Her Majesty. I've talked about Reigns before. This looks like the sequel to it. In Reigns, you play a dynasty of kings, basically, and it's a sort of a choose-your-own-adventure style game, and it changes as things go on, and you get little challenges, and etc., etc. And this looks like a sequel where that you are a queen now, instead of a king, and it looks like there's some item management, and a couple of other new gameplay elements, so that's interesting. Okay,
well, I got another one. I've got a very...
It's only $3. I might buy that right now.
I've got a really good discovery queue this time around. Claybook, a physics platformer with a time warp rewind mechanic, but it's all clay. And as you go through the level, you deform, you pick up colors, and you're able to shape the world. It's in early access right now, so we'll have to see how it pans out overall. But that is a very interesting trailer. It's a unique mechanic. Yeah, check out that trailer. That is so neat. It looks like it has VR support as well, or maybe plan to. It looks like it only has a couple updates right now, though, so it's very fresh in the early access phases.
It, for some reason, is not loading for me. Oh, here we go. Ooh!
Yeah, doesn't that look cool?
That's
I mean, it looks like modeling clay. And you can shape the world and use it as a soft body physics puzzle. So you're able to flood areas by breaking through walls and that sort of thing. Isn't that so cool?
That looks really neat. Yeah.
I hope this gets developed enough, because I don't want this to be just a tech demo. But you can see as your block or whatever it is moves around, you're also picking up colors. So it has that visual element as well. I'm not sure if it has any impact, but damn, that is so cool looking.
Yeah, I like that. It's really cool. I'll put that on my wish list. That might be something interesting that King would like to play.
Yeah, I just got Reigns. My discovery queue, it's like, welcome back! Here's everything good! Hands of Fate 2. I liked the first Hands of Fate. I didn't beat it because I just didn't spend enough time with it. Everything I've heard about this game, it's Hand of Fate, but better. And they go into the game explaining that the dealer has spent ages refining the game and improving it, as in game explaining the game is better now. and they address most of the issues. Everything I've heard, they said that the combat is still the weakest part. But, yeah, if they've improved even just the combat a little bit, yeah, that's good enough for me. This will be something I'll pick up eventually. Only problem I really had with the original Hand of Fate outside combat was sometimes it was a little too random. You know, there was times that you would fail and you had no impact on what you were doing. You just failed.
Yeah. Yeah, I've played the original Hand of Fate a bit, but I've not actually played it a lot. But, I mean, it's a good game, and I've heard nothing but good things about Hand of Fate 2. By the way, I'm through my Discovery queue.
Yeah, I just finished mine.
So I had 3 games. You had what? Wait, 6? Yeah, you had 6.
Well, do you want, what was it? Shadowhand? Do you want to take that for yours?
Nah, it's fine.
Well, I just don't want you to get jealous.
Oh, I'm not jealous.
Much. But yeah, Discovery Queue is welcoming me back, I guess. I mean, there's
Indeed.
really
I mean, I got a few good games as well. So mine wasn't like terrible. I think you just had
Mine was just a conga line of good stuff, or at least interesting stuff. Because I'm not sure if Dominions would be something that I would want to play, because that may be a little too much. But it may be interesting to some of the 4X strategy fans out there. But that Playbook, I think that's the winner for me right now. Or in that queue.
Yeah.
Or at least out of games that I didn't hear about before, because that is so cool. Go check out the trailer for Playbook.
Yeah. It was really good looking. Really cool looking art style. Okie dokie.
So, time for you start plugging things?
That is right. Well, that wraps up the portion, or all the bits of the show, and now we're to the one where I get to go first and tell you where you can find my stuff. If you want to find my YouTube channel, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist on YouTube. I'm currently working on a mining video I've discussed for ages on the show, and it's been on our topic list, like our general topic list, for me to talk about like different mining systems in video games. And I sat down and I just started writing a script the other day before I got sick. Like, I just want to talk about this. I've been playing Elite Dangerous and doing mining in that, and I just finished a Factorio run. And that game is all about, well, not all about, but I mean, a huge portion of that game is making sure you're mining enough shit. So I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to talk about mining in video games and put together a list of some good games and some bad games. And I don't know if this is going to be like 2 videos or 3 videos, but it's going to be at least 2 videos right now.
And then your sinuses go like, nope.
Yeah, and then I got sick, so. But that's what I'm working on right now. I'm hoping to have that done in the next week. Put out something nice before I leave on my vacation, or to go visit my family in 2 weeks. Other than that, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at JMA4707. If you want to watch me stream games on Twitch, which nobody said anything about streaming games, but I think I'm going to start streaming again on Monday night. Either Monday night or Thursday night. Both of those nights are pretty good nights for me to stream. And if you want to watch me stream games or participate, if they are multiplayer games in the community stuff that we do, you can do so over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. If you want to be my friend on Steam, my Steam username is jarthur4707. I accept all friend requests and love to talk to you lovely, lovely people. And please keep the questions coming in. The question segment is fun.
Yeah, we didn't get to do it this week, but we'll do it again next week. But if you wish to let Jared know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is avocado.
I don't like avocados very much.
Avocado.
Or guacamole. Anyways, what about you?
Well, my YouTube channel is slowly coming back online. I didn't do the Sunday Sampler this past week because like I said, I struck out. I had one game that was just an unfinished mess. Let's put it this way. When I shut down the game, I did so because I couldn't progress through the tutorial because I got partway through and I talked to the guy again it's like, okay, well, maybe he gives me an idea of where to go because there's absolutely no map. This was a farming game. And it was telling me, okay, go feed your livestock, because it started you with an actual farm, which is unusual for a farming game. Yeah, well, I should say the Harvest Moon Stardew Valley style farming game, not farming simulator style. All right. And also, your grandfather was alive, which is very strange for these games. Anyway, talk to my grandpa again to find out. Okay, maybe he'll tell me where the livestock is to feed it. It reset the tutorial. But my progress didn't reset. So I couldn't finish the tutorial because I had already watered the fields. So you could see why I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to spend time with this. And there was also other weird things, like all sorts of little invisible walls around all the objects. So there was all sorts of weird collision things. So you can imagine why I didn't want to do a video on it. Outside of, just starting to bash every single thing. And I usually like to have some degree of competence in the videos, or the games I play for my videos. Occasionally. But yeah, that's why I didn't have the Sunday sampler, because, that. But I am slowly getting content up and running again. Never Alone is just had its third episode of just clunky platformer fun. RimWorld, I have my build pretty much set. It took me longer than I expected, just because it updated over Thanksgiving, and major family holiday. Mods aren't going to update it quite quickly. Plus, there were some major changes to some things, so it took a while for certain things to get updated. As a matter of fact, some things still aren't updated and won't be for ages, but I need to get going on that. But, slowly getting that up and running. And Divinity, well, we'll see about that. Probably going to be at least a few weeks, because I want to build up content for that. That seems like a smart thing to do, right?
Absolutely.
So probably New Year's for Divinity. And we will be finishing it, and then we'll move on to another game. We pretty much have that one sorted out. We'll be doing another collab with Jared, but we do want to get more stuff in the can. And like not finding a way to screw us over as well would be very much appreciated. But you can find that absolute nonsense, as well as the Sunday sampler, where I usually do something completely random. And it's usually some sort of review on a game over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage. Or you just see me tweet about who knows what over at Gaming with CR. I was tweeting earlier about PUBG having unstable frame rates on Xbox. Completely shocking, I might add. Shocking.
Yeah, no one expected that.
Yeah, no one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
And since we're still rambling, you could ramble to us. See what I did there? VGLpodcast at gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, gaming-related topics, questions, or just tweet them to us, VGL Podcast, on the Twitter. You can also support us with a pledge on Patreon, patreon.com/VGL Podcast. There has been a change with how Patreon is handling pledges, so do be careful about that. They're doing a service charge. And I just want to be sure to let people know about that. Granted, we don't have many patrons on there, but we don't want people to just get blindsided by that. I believe it's a 2.5% charge plus 35 cents.
Yes. Which, basically, the larger your donation is, the less that will affect you.
Yeah.
Yes, technically you will be charged more money, but the less overall percentage of your contribution that is. But if you are like a dollar patron, which is the bread and butter for most Patreon accounts, you're going to see a really big increase, because you're going to be paying your dollar plus 2%, which is 2 cents, plus 35 cents. So you're going to be paying nearly $1.50 to donate $1. Yeah,
I've been seeing a lot of podcasts talking about this, and especially podcasts that have a heavy focus on their patrons at the $1 to $5 range. just getting hammered by people dropping because that fee's adding up. And I just wanted to throw that out there to let people know. I didn't want people to get blindsided. So a little bit of a service announcement. But we do greatly appreciate our backers.
Indeed.
And, well, if you wish to read the show notes or get the RSS feed, you can find it over at bglpodcast.podbean.com, which has been paid for by our generous backers, and thank you once again. Or if you don't need the RSS feed but want to see us on iTunes, Google Play, or what was it, Stitcher?
Stitcher?
Okay.
Yep.
You can find us on those services as well. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod, and our Discovery Cue music makes a return, which is Doobly Doo by the same artist. And you can find his work at incompetech.com.
And as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
See ya.
Bye. I actually did a little wave. I was like, bye-bye, and I waved.
They can't see you.
You can't see me wave.
Thankfully.
You can't see me either.
But believe me, if this was a video podcast, we would have no viewers whatsoever.
Don't sell yourself short, buddy. You're mighty attractive in my book. Bye-bye.